Welcome to Shakeshero, the podcast that bridges the gap between you and all things Shakespeare. I'm Chloe Baldwin, our resident Shakespeare nerd who thinks Shakespeare can and should be accessible to everyone.
I'm Paul Stafford, the skeptical and suspicious outsider who is going to see if it's true.
With a heart of gold.
And today we are breaking down a filmed live production of Julius Caesar, produced and filmed at the Donmar Warehouse and directed by Phyllida Lloyd. And these next two episodes are pretty special because we are going to call them our gender bender duo. And specifically, they're special because we're going to try to look at certain specific productions that are cast in all one gender or the other. So this one is this production of Julius Caesar and Phyllida Lloyd's company that it's hard to tell, but it seems like this company is just made up of all women.
What I know for sure is that Phyllida Lloyd's whole kind of mission statement as a director is to place women like center stage and to try to create more opportunities for like female actors.
Yeah, and which
I'm not mad about as a female actor.
Which is a great mission. And the next episode we're going to do is going to be a production of Twelfth Night with all men. And
it stars Mark Rylance, who is an extremely talented Shakespearean actor. And I have so many feelings about that. Well, I don't even want to say anything until we get to that episode, Paul.
Oh my God, this is like such a point of stress for Chloe, and it's hilarious to watch from my perspective.
I am absolutely stepping outside of my comfort zone, and I am excited and admittedly very scared.
I have zero stake in it, and it's just
it's hilarious to watch me struggle. Oh God! But one thing I do know is that I loved this production, this all-female production at Donmar Warehouse. And the other thing I know,
a winner.
Yeah, and before we get too into this, I want to say like about our dichotomy of gender benders. So the Donmar Warehouse Julius Caesar and the Mark Rylance Twelfth Night that was at Shakespeare's Globe are two of the productions that I hear referenced most often amongst people that I trust, of like, these are great productions of Shakespeare. And if you can ever find a way to see them, you should.
Yeah. And in our pursuit of the definitive like Shakespeare collection of like, these are the productions that will have the most mass appeal and have the best opportunity to, you know, to I don't know, to come across to the largest audience.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see the dichotomy of having one be all female, one be all male. And also like at least Twelfth Night, apparently I've never seen it, is about gender. Like it has a lot to do with gender.
It involves gender a lot.
Man, it's like wheels within wheels of complexity, like having these plays that I imagine Shakespeare would ideally have cast both genders, but then but out of necessity because of the social pressures,
laws,
cast
the
men.
Literal laws.
Yeah, exactly. But then having them like stretch through time now and have us like cast men or women to like either make a point or to just or to like for our own social reasons, it's so weird to
fascinating.
Reach through all of those and wade and like sift through all of those like layers to get to what was being talked about and then connect it to the other layers. It's so complicated.
Yeah, and sometimes what's being talked about is gender, and sometimes he's like poking fun at it. Sometimes he's like, isn't it ridiculous how these like men are dressed up as women? And then the other aspect of it too is like, and I think we might have mentioned this before on the podcast, but like the aspect of it where the youngest men were playing the women. So it was the least experienced actors. So by necessity, unless he had a really talented young man, which it seems like sometimes he did, he would have to write them more simply. Which is fascinating.
It is fascinating. And it's something that's like very, I think, important to ping when talking about, like, you know, for nowadays, if we have a woman cast as that and then like they're like saying something like stupid or ridiculous, is not him being sexist. It's like him trying to just like work with the tools that he had.
Right. Like maybe.
We don't know. It fits as a puzzle piece, but we don't actually know. Like was he writing understanding how popular this would be into the future? I don't know. Honestly, man, just like that last 30 seconds of like contemplation is exhausting. And one thing that was like really refreshing about what we just watched was that it wasn't about men or women.
I know.
They just like ignored it all and just made it about the story.
Dude, I loved that.
Which was fascinating. I mean, like, it's what you would want. It's like, it's why me and you really liked Crazy Rich Asians, and why I imagine a lot of people would, because it wasn't about fucking Asian people, it was about people,
right?
And they just happened to be Asian. So like,
right.
I love
one thing that's interesting too is that I wrote down is that I kept changing the gender of how I was referring to them, either when we were talking about it as we were watching it, or in my head. I noticed it. I was like, oh yeah, he did this, and then she did this, and then they did this. Like literally all three of those I have referred to the same character as throughout the time that I was just thinking about them or talking about them. And it's really, and that's exciting to me, frankly, like as someone who cares a lot about how do we break down gender? Is gender irrelevant? Like, how does it factor into our identities? Does it? Should it? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It was a really, it felt like a relief in a certain way. Like, it was like, okay, don't have to worry about that. I can leave that at the door. Like, I can leave kind of an obsession about gender at the door. It was really exciting to me, too, to see all of these women or just all of these people that, as an actress specifically, I feel like there's a lot of pressure to be like, oh, you have to look pretty or made up or whatever. And just to see all of these women that like had short hair and no makeup on, and like you're seeing all of their beautiful, and not beautiful in like the beautiful way, but like humanly beautiful wrinkles, and like just simply them. Like there's nothing put on. It's just them being human. Which is a
very smart. I guess I might as well get into this right now. So this play was set with a very thin eggshell of a veil of like a play within a play.
Yes.
They introduce it as like, oh, we're in a women's prison, and this woman who ends up playing Mark Antony is just introducing it. It's just like, we're in a women's prison, and we convicts, and we love doing Shakespeare, so we're gonna put our Shakespeare play for you, right face. and they do it. She doesn't talk like that at all. But that's my that's my only British accent, which is vaguely like, goddamn.
Taika.
I was gonna say New Zealand. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Kiwi.
So she says that, and then they just basically just start doing the play. And then so like it affords a lot of freedom, in which case they don't need a ton of costumes. They just use like hoodies and just prison clothes.
It's great.
And it works. And also, without having any makeup on, it's still within the reality within the reality that they set up.
Yes.
Which, like, I was gonna ask you about that. Like, do you feel like there's a lot of significance of that? Is it trying to make a statement, the fact that it's in a women's prison? What it felt like to me was that they just wanted to put on Shakespeare, and it provided just like a really thin, just like excuse for them to just do the play they wanted to do. Because I imagine them doing it as an all-female play might come across as making a statement at some times, and maybe not, but they're really just some ladies who want to put on a Shakespeare play,
right? And they're all stuck together. There's no dudes.
Sometimes they feel like, I'm guessing here. I'm very much guessing. Like sometimes they might feel like people might like be reading into things that they don't need to read into, so they just go ahead, just like, okay, then we just make this sweeping claim real quick,
it's
so
like,
we can just go ahead and do the play.
It's like making it a blank slate. It's like saying, don't worry about like why we're doing this. This isn't about it being political. It's just about, we have this group of women here, and now we're gonna do it. Here we go. Like this is all we got.
Everything worked.
It did.
It was so good because the play's not about gender. It's about ambition, about power, about guilt, about like all these things, and it's universal. And I loved. I was like kind of looking for the fact that it being an all women's play to like mean something, but it didn't, and I thought that meant more.
I think so too. I thought that was really nice. I think that's really well put, and I don't even want to elaborate on it because I think that's exactly what it is.
I love it.
Yeah. I also want to point to, while we're talking about the kind of framing device of this play, I loved at the beginning when you said, is everything just a play within a play? Which made me laugh.
We watched like a lot of things recently. It feels like the go-to like shtick is like a play within a play. God, you're so deep.
But have you heard of a play within a play within a play, Paul?
Oh,
That's what I want to know.
Get your Inception ass out of here. I'm just kidding. I love you, Christopher Nolan.
But speaking of that, I really like mad props to the way they got us into this play. Like, I felt like rather than us getting thrown into the deep end, we were like walking into an ocean on a beach. Like, we were just slowly taking one step at a time until we were just in the water. Because, you know, first you've got, okay, we're in a women's prison. We're establishing that. Then we've got, okay, now, like, we're setting something up and something's going on. Oh, it's a party. Like, there's a party. And this person is, like, oh, a crazy person walks up to this person. And this person's, like, in charge of the party. And the person in charge of the party, like, starts reading this horoscope.
Are you getting into the play right now?
And finds it ridiculous. I kind of am, but I'm more so like...
There's like a couple things I wanted to ask before we started. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I think the thing that I just wanted to say about this is that it really felt like they eased us into it in a really nice way. Like, even that little referential moment where they go, like, oh, that sounds like Shakespeare, or whatever. Like, the Ides of March, that sounds like Shakespeare. And then speaking the horoscope like it was, you know, in modern day English. Yes. And then slowly, like, it was almost like every time... And I, as a stalker too, I was kind of watching you. Like, every time that...
Weird.
I know. Every time that I kind of saw you start to feel more confident about, like, oh, okay, get that. Then they timed it out really well to feel like we can move on and make this be a little deeper and move on to our next layer of this with the audience catching on to it. And it's that thing we talk about with the video game tutorial of, like, you can't just throw us into this world. You got to kind of teach us each aspect one at a time, or we're going to get overwhelmed.
Yeah, you don't want to do either one. You don't want to just throw someone into the world without any direction, but you also don't want to just, like, be like, hey, here's the study time. You want the tutorial to be part of the story.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. And,
I thought they did that in a really nice way that, like, it even had a little bit of cheek in it that felt kind of self-aware.
For sure. But not for too long either. Just did it real quick, and then it just, like, jumped right into it.
It was great. I feel like I kind of want to go back again and watch the beginning of it, because I want to track each of those steps really specifically, because I think there's a lot of value in there. There's a lot of things they did right and they did well.
I imagine this has some rewatch value for me too, because like. And there was so much sarcasm and so much, like, subtext within this, like, like, somebody saying something, just like, you know, like a damn Sorkin script, or like something that was, like, very political, like somebody saying something and it meaning 5 things, and then everybody's supposed to be reading something else. I'm like, God, reading this play must take you like 5 times to get it, and you were just like, yep.
Yeah, it's true. And honestly, like, for me, from my little nerdy end, that's why I love it. Yeah. And I think you said something at one point about, like, wanting it to be chewed up to get understood. How did you phrase that?
I mean, because we'll get into this, but, like, it was me, like, having a little bit of cognitive dissonance by like how I felt towards the character, and then all the things they did. I'm like, give me a simple character. Are they a villain? Are they a hero? Which one are they? And they were all the things they did were a villain, and all things they made me. But they made me feel, like, endeared towards them. So I'm just like I'm just like tortured and conflicted.
I'm gonna stop you.
No. But then I was like, just give me one. Just, like, chew it up and, like, feed it to me. Like, which one should it be? And you're like. Go ahead. Right.
No, I was gonna say, well, like, we'll definitely get to that, because that's a whole thing to unpack. But I was talking about, like, what you were saying about storytelling, and about, like, you know, if you're the artist, if you're the person creating it, what you got to at the end of that is you have to kind of chew it up to, like, give it to the audience. You don't want it to, like, just be this, like, thing they gotta chew through themselves.
Yeah.
Like, you want to give it to them kind of pre-chewed, like a mama bird.
Yeah.
And that's, like, I really like chewing stuff that's hard to chew. Like, I could sit there and chew stuff all day, and I want to figure out how to chew it in a way that's digestible for other people.
Ew.
Do you like this metaphor? Isn't it super cute?
Okay. So before we get, like, I feel like we're just reaching in.
We're going a bunch of places.
Excited. We're chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
So
chewing at the bit. Well, I mean, chomping is chewing. I'm gonna stop now.
So I have a couple questions for you. So you like this play?
I do like this play. It's not my favorite play, honestly.
I love the fact that it was the pause there.
Yeah,
like,
no, I like this play. I think that, that honestly,
and when we say play, we mean the text.
The text of Julius Caesar. I like this play, and I think that watching this version made me like it more. I think that, I don't know, I think it has some pacing issues.
Interesting.
I think that, it's really interesting.
The text, you mean?
The text. I think that it's really interesting to me that what we're watching is the fallout of the murder. Like, one of the things you kept saying is it's so interesting Julius Caesar gets murdered so early.
Yeah.
Because the play's called Julius Caesar.
The Caesar gets murdered maybe 45% through the play.
Yeah.
And then
the rest of it is about
second half
now what?
Exactly.
Which I think, just as someone who is interested in grief and how we process grief as humans, I think that's really interesting.
I don't even think grief is like a big part of this play.
Guilt is for sure. For sure. And I think those two can go hand in hand sometimes.
Maybe.
Sometimes not. But we could get into this, but I think Antony is all about grief in this. Anyway, but where was I? Do
you like this play?
Do I like this play? Pause.
Pacing issues.
Yeah, no, I think so it's interesting that he gets killed, but then I think it's hard to kind of keep up the momentum after he's dead.
Yes.
You've got the immediate fallout of Mark Antony, and then after that you've kind of got some other stuff that happens, and then we get to the revolution, and then that's happening, and so I think that kind of intermediary spot between Mark Antony does the coolest shit ever, and it's super subversive and interesting, and then the point that we get to of now everything's getting avenged for Julius Caesar. All the stuff in the middle of that
those two things
is kind of okay, when are we gonna get to
1000% agree.
Yeah,
and this play was pretty concise. It
was and
just
they did a really good
hours.
job. They did a really good job of getting through that stuff as fast as they could. But I think that I'm always gonna feel like maybe part of me wants to direct this play because I want to figure out how to either make that interesting or just fucking get through it or maybe cut it. You know, I think that stuff in the middle, it doesn't interest me as much. And maybe that's just me as a human too. But I think that the everything up to him getting killed and through Mark Antony's whole shtick is great. I think that the ending where, everybody's fucking dying and there's a huge fallout is great. And I think that 50 to 65% is kind of okay, when are we going to get to the interesting stuff again?
65% of the play?
No. So 50% of the play, the 50% mark of time to the 65% mark.
Got it. So 15% of the play.
15% of the play.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And don't get me wrong, this was still interesting.
It's wonderful and it's fascinating.
Worth the watch.
It's fascinating.
But yes, if I didn't know this was Shakespeare and somebody brought me this to put on the chopping block and mold it into what I thought would be a very tight play. Yeah, that's the bit I would cut to.
What would you do? Would you just cut it? Just straight up cut it?
Either cut it or I don't. You put me on the spot here. I wouldn't necessarily. I would have to work through it and either find a through line that either reinforced what the play was about.
Yeah.
And then highlight that. But I wouldn't just stick to it just because it existed. I mean,
I'm interested because
because the Cassius and Caesar and Antony and Brutus are the four main characters of the play, and so I would pick one or maybe two of them to be what this play is about, and I would probably shift the focus on that and make everything revolve around that, orbit around that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the through line of the play has more of a conceptual through line, and it's not necessarily about their arc because nobody. I mean, if anybody has an arc, they realize and they change at the very end right before they die. Mm-hmm. It's there's not exactly a hero's journey character arc. People just
have regrets.
They just have regrets and then die. So it's not an arc as much as it is a quick left turn and then death.
Yeah, so true.
So It's not. It's more like the whole play
Has more of an arc.
is the arc,
Yeah, I
as
agree.
opposed to a character does.
I agree.
So I would find what that is, and whatever served that I would keep, or I would like adjust to highlight that.
Yeah, I feel like and I don't know, I could be convinced otherwise for sure, but in the productions that I've seen or been a part of, I feel like I've mostly just seen them, so I feel like I don't have as much insider knowledge as I usually do, but like I do feel like I don't know what the value for the story arc is of that 15% that we're talking about.
Yeah, me neither. I would have to like sit down and think about it. We just came off of watching it
For sure.
fresh, and we're thinking about all these things. I'd have to revisit it.
Yeah, but I'm curious.
But yeah, the reason why that falls a little bit flat, and like why the pacing issue is the fact that like the tension that exists is because they're planning to kill Caesar, and we're waiting for that to happen, and then it happens, and then we get the immediate fallout of Antony, who's talking about that genius speech of of saying how I'm on their side, but really saying he's not, of the conspirators who killed him. And then we have a long time before that falls out. So it's really just the tension of the consequences about to play out. And with any movie, that would fall flat if we're like, this thing is gonna happen, and then we have to wait like another act for it to actually happen. Like that would be like a problem for anybody. So that's
so funny.
It's not like the logical progression of events. It's just like the timing in between, which is what you said, pacing issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what I feel about it. I could be convinced otherwise, but for now, that's where I stand.
No,
and
I
with
agree.
this production.
That's my instinct as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
but,
so
yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but I feel like with the text that I and especially because of the fact that I feel like the flaw is in the text, I feel like they fucking knocked it out of the park. Like, this was a great production. I would recommend this to anyone.
1000% agree.
Yeah. Even if they'd never seen an ounce of Shakespeare, if they'd never read Romeo and Juliet, I would recommend it.
Last thing to ping before we get into the chronology of it,
Yeah,
was the fact that they totally embraced their freedom with the fact that they filmed the play.
Yeah.
So they filmed it, and they had, I don't know who, if Phyllida Lloyd had creative control of like the filming aspect of it or not, but they had their camera set up like you would in a play. And like, for people who have never watched film productions of plays, they normally are terrible. And it's not the fault of whoever the camera people are. They just they just have a couple of angles, and they just film the whole thing, and then they just pay somebody, and somebody edits it. Or they don't pay anybody, or they pay somebody shit, and they just like have some edited version of the live production.
Right. Or it's one camera from really far away.
And it's not thought out.
Yeah.
And the sound is terrible. It's just it's just something that's an afterthought, and that's just like they have as an extra, and they don't really think about it. This and a few of the other like really good productions that we're hoping to go through in the near future, they really thought it out, and it came out to an amazing effect.
Yeah.
Like, they had all the camera angles planned out, and they even had shots that they did without the audience there. So they could edit that in for like either a slow motion shot, or like a really like a surreal dreamlike sequence where all the audience just disappeared, and they had all the lighting they wanted.
Best version of that. Like, every time that so the first time that happened was when the mad woman who is predicting things to Caesar comes out by herself, and like everyone's frozen, and it added to it. It was great. They didn't try to hide it. They were just like, this is happening inside her head, and she's crazy, so of course the audience is gone. Of course it doesn't matter.
They leaned into the fact that they had the creative control of the camera.
Yes.
And so the fact that they did that also didn't take away from any of their live productions. They could just be free to do it.
Right.
So mad props, great choice of blending kind of a lot. I was kind of a genius move to like, you're having to bridge the live theater production and the film aspect, or like the film, the filmmaker's toolkit of like putting this for a produced version. It was great. They had music in there, they had all kinds of shit. It was great.
Can I tell you something cool about Phyllida Lloyd that I learned?
Shoot.
She directed Mamma Mia, the movie, not the stage play.
Funny, because the movie felt like a stage play.
Right, and she kind of has experience bridging this back and forth between film and theater, kind of making a musical into a movie, making a...
What a niche.
Yeah, right? And, you know, she directed The Iron Lady, a couple other things, but, you know, just a lot of things that are kind of in that little intermediary place between this is theater, this is film. Like, this really felt like a piece of theater that kind of got adapted a little bit into film, which was cool.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I totally agree. She recognized that you have to translate it a little bit.
Yes.
It's not just a copy paste.
I feel like that about Shakespeare a little bit too.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah,
you gotta chew it. You
not
gotta
a little
translate
bit, Chloe,
it a little bit.
A lot.
Yeah.
You feel like that a lot.
I do.
Okay. Before, I feel like you'd be reaching our tendrils into the play, but like a couple questions and we can get started.
Yeah.
What are the Ides of March?
It's the middle of March.
What the fuck? I was expecting a much... That's
it.
I built that up so much bigger in my head.
No, it's the middle of March.
Okay, but so the Ides of March are referred to like a character. Like the Ides of March will see this, or the Ides of March are watching you, or like the Ides of March or this. But in the context of how it's said in the play, to me it's not clear what that means. Are you literally just saying it is mid-March?
Yeah, I just Googled it just to be sure I'm not missing something. And, you know, it says some stuff about how it's, you know, a couple Roman holidays and stuff. But it's the first thing that shows up is just March 15th. That is the Ides of March.
That sounds like a literal definition.
It is, but it's also
not necessarily
like,
what...
So beware the Ides of March is basically...
That's even a movie with George Clooney and... what's his name? I forgot his name. He's very, very cute. Ryan Gosling.
He's cute.
Yeah, so it's about and they're politicians. Or George Clooney's a politician. It's a movie.
That's funny. But yeah, so March, it's March 15th. It's the middle of March. It's like if someone were like, Paul, look out for the 19th of July. The 19th of July.
Yeah, but that doesn't make any sense.
I know.
So I guess I'm looking to you for the insider info for like what could that mean, because all these characters keep referring to like the Ides of March, like again, beware the Ides of March. Like what is the updated translation of what that means? I mean,
it's literally like if someone said to you, Paul, look out for the 19th of July. You'd be like, what do you mean? Like that is so unspecific and unhelpful.
Yeah.
It is. It's unspecific and unhelpful. It's like, because the Mad Woman is, the soothsayer is what they call her in their play.
Not just the Mad Woman, multiple people.
Yeah, but mostly the soothsayers. Like,
no, dude, Anthony says it too.
They're talking about the Ides of March.
Yeah, but multiple like lucid characters like refer to the Ides of March as like this is a thing, and it just didn't. It missed me. I'm like, okay, you're naming a thing, but what is that thing?
It's just the middle of March. I don't know how to explain this because when Anthony's like they're saying we will kill Caesar on this day, basically, or like we killed Caesar in the Ides of March, the middle of March. That's when we killed Caesar.
I could have sworn they were like, I mean, I feel like I would have got it if that was the context. Don't get me wrong, I didn't remember the surrounding context of like how many every time they said it, but there was many times when they said it where I was just like, it would make more sense if I knew what the Ides of March was, and I didn't. So there might be more to this to unpack.
There's not.
There's not more to this to unpack.
Maybe a little bit, but it sounds ominous because it's like, I don't know. I feel very dark for saying this, and maybe this is too dark. I don't know, but it's, you know, when they're talking about it, looking back on it. So the soothsayer is saying it like, look out for this date. It's going to be bad. But most of the time, like Mark Antony is talking about like looking back on it, right?
Maybe, yeah.
So it's kind of like when we reference like 9/11, like we know what that is. It's a bad date. Like we're like, okay.
So when he's referring to it, he's just naming it as the death of Caesar,
right?
Or like the
and that's why it's
betrayal
bad,
of Caesar.
is because that's what happened on that date.
Okay, so I'm reading into it more than necessary.
I don't think you are, because I think there is a weight to it that they're talking about.
But
the weight is because of the death as opposed to because of the Ides of March referencing like the gods or referencing something deeper.
So when I'm indexing it, like I'm referencing the Ides of March as like important in and of itself, but it only is important because of the fact that it points to the event of that time period.
You got it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So, I was hoping it was more than that. Anyway.
I know. It sounds so deep, doesn't it? I think I kind of had this moment the first time I heard about that too. I was like, that's it.
I was like,
just
I
March
thought it was
15th.
like, this like cool little like Easter egg.
It would be weird if they were like, beware, March 15th. It almost sounds like March 15th coming to VHS.
Denied on Shakespeare's Live. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, we open the show, and it has just like these camera shots, again, them leaning into the fact that they can film some stuff, and of just like these women in hoodies just like marching into something, clearly into the theater.
Yeah, it was cool too, because you could even like see backstage, there's like a prop table, like they were marching down the streets, clearly. It was really neat.
It's like a back alley or
like
something.
led by these guards.
And they walk into a fucking black box theater, and I was really surprised. Like, I don't know, when I think like we were looking for like a good production of like a high production value and like a lot of money behind it.
Mm-hmm.
When I think black box, I think like my fucking college, and I think of like just like low budget, like little ass theaters.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I've never seen like a production that was like a lot of money behind it and black box. So this was like cool to see. Not to say that doesn't happen a lot. I've just never seen it.
Yeah, that's a very Chicago thing. Like, I feel like a lot of Chicago theaters, like, oh, we have a huge budget, but we're gonna use it on like, our actors and our marketing and whatever, and not pour a ton of stuff into.
That's technically what they did, because like they didn't need, like that the women's prison angle was great, because all they had to do was just put people in hoodies.
Yeah,
they had a couple of like instruments and stuff, but like it clearly did the production value. Not production value. What is, I don't want to put it, like the production, like there's
complexity.
There's no production complexity was like nothing. There's no set. There's no anything. There's just like everybody. It was super minimal, and it still fucking worked.
Yeah,
it was good.
I honestly feel
which is like the magic of fucking theater.
It
right?
is.
Like I love it.
Yeah. With those first couple scenes where we're watching Brutus basically go through all that different stuff that, where he's like not sure what he wants to do, and he's getting convinced by all these people. Like, I really liked that it was just Brutus is on stage and all these people are like entering and exiting, and it's just him. Like it's just, we're watching all this stuff happen around him, but it's more about the people than it is about the like, now we're at the Senate, now we're at my house, now we're over here. Like, that doesn't really matter. What matters is all these people are coming to him and saying different things.
Yeah.
And that's all we really need to know in that moment.
Exactly. And it was a good experiment in some senses, because I'm like, if I'm watching a play and I'm wondering, what did I need to understand this? And it was, so the black box can strip it down, because you literally can't have a set, because if you build a wall or any kind of like structure to show one way, you can't see it the other way. So black box is like,
and we should say too that this was in the round, so like there was audience on all sides, all four sides of the stage had an audience there.
For the uninitiated, a black box theater is just the fact that yes, there's 360-degree seating, and so
black box doesn't always mean that, but so a black box isn't necessarily always in the round.
That was the case.
Right, but like the thing that you're talking about, where everyone's around, like on all four sides,
so
is
what does
in the round.
Black box mean then?
Black box basically means you can reconfigure the space to any kind of setup you want. So like it could be in the round, it could be like, people on three sides. Black
box means modular.
Yeah.
In the round is what I was equating to black box, but yes,
gotcha.
the situation for this theater was a 360-degree seating angle, meaning you can't build a set without permanently blocking one side of the audience.
In a black box.
So in the case of this theater, there's no set. So inherently it begs like a really pure form of portraying what you're trying to portray, because you can't have any big set pieces. It has to only be costume and acting.
Yeah.
In this case, really not costume, because everybody was just in like the hoodie. Like,
got some jackets.
At least in the beginning. So it shined a light on, to me, a noob, was just the fact that I could still get it and feel the stakes and just everything else disappear.
Yeah.
If it's done right.
honestly,
And so
that's a huge testament to the power of Shakespeare's language, frankly, and to the power of really good actors.
the production, yeah.
Together,
so like,
yeah.
The language was great, and like and just the circumstance. I think the circumstance was universal enough. It was about political power,
yeah,
and like somebody vying for it, and like, you know, just like this. It is the language, yes, but I mean, I think the circumstance is just it's universal enough. Like it's primal. It's like I can imagine cavemen having this same situation. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah, like it's almost tribal.
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
Fundamental.
Fundamental.
I
yeah,
think is the better word. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I feel like when I think about different like Shakespeare structures and stories, and which ones are more difficult to get at or more like technical in nature, I think of this one as slightly more technical. So it's interesting to hear kind of the opposite from you, that it's kind of fundamental. It's
both. It's fundamental, and like it's simple but complicated.
Yeah, and I think they're all like that, frankly, and I'm really glad that, I don't know, so maybe it is the production, because I feel like text-wise this one is just as thick as other ones, if not more so. So I think it's cool that this production feels like it cut to the heart of like what's really going on and what's fundamental and human about it.
I think this one has passive and active consumption, the way we talked about, or passive and active listenability.
Yeah.
Because it is like a lot of complicated reasoning to get to a very singular and specific goal of kill Caesar.
Yeah.
And so that...
We should just totally kill Caesar.
That... It's never gonna make fetch happen. So like... I mean, but that's my point. It's like I don't know if I'm like getting at the definition of active passive listenability, but like the fact that it was a simple goal gave us something to focus on, and then while we can contemplate, and it was very clear that that was the goal from the very beginning, because the first scene is Cassius, who is trying to convince Brutus that you should be in charge, not Caesar, and so like. Immediately we get jealousy, we get like, the envy, we get all these things, like all that shit is just like clicks, it's universal, and we can all get it. And so now we can like stop focusing on that, stop focusing on trying to figure out what is happening, and then we can like just like chomp and bite down on the why. And
all I want ever with Shakespeare.
You know what I mean? Like but that is the logistics of the play, that premise is clear enough. Like something like Taming of the Shrew, that premise isn't exactly clear, or like another more complicated Shakespeare play. Like you might need more time to like make the premise clear, or make the goal of the characters clear.
But I feel like what you just said was like there's all this stuff going on, but the important thing in the center of it is all this human specific stuff.
I'm saying, so like say a modern play like that wasn't Shakespeare, like you can just be like, okay, we want to do this thing, and everybody will get it because it just pings on something we all understand because we live in this time. I'm saying this thing that is the goal of Cassius and Brutus still just happens to still resonate with the time that we live in.
Yeah, but I feel like
you want to be class president.
I am going to keep pushing back against this a little bit, because I do think that like, at the basic core level of it, we do get it and we do relate to it, and that's why I think these plays are still relevant. But I think that if we were to look at this at a very technical level, where we're like, okay, and it's the thing that you were asking about too, you were like, so Caesar, that doesn't mean he has ultimate power, like if he's a king he has more power.
This is part of it, but it's not much of it.
I think it's important in a related way, because I think that there is a lot of technical stuff going on here. But if we realize, and especially as the creators of it, as the actors in it, if we realize that like it all stems back to these human impulses, like those kind of obtuse technical things start to make sense because they're tied to something we all get.
I'm confused as to what are you refuting what I'm saying, like that?
Well, I think what I'm trying to say is there was technical stuff in this play that like could be confusing, but because they really tapped into that human side of it, it didn't feel confusing. That's what I think.
I'm saying the logistics of the fact that it's like you're saying like you have two characters at the beginning of the play, and we're like, we want to get to the top of the mountain, and like they're just in like that's just a very clear, simple goal that everybody can get, and then we can focus on like all the steps to get there, and that make it complicated. I'm saying something like Taming of the Shrew, where like it's not clear what the play is about. It's not like clear that like I want to do this, I want to do this. We're constantly trying to readjust what we think it's about, as well as trying to figure out like why it's happening, and which makes it a little bit more complicated and makes like the point of the play a little more diffused, which can make it more confusing if you don't do it right. We happen to watch a really good one watching the 1967 version with Franco Zeffirelli directing it, but I imagine that could make it a little more like unclear. But this one is just like the two characters at the beginning are clearly stating their purpose as to saying that Caesar is unfit to rule and you should rule. So like we get that, and now we can like spend the rest of our processing power like figuring out or like deciding like judging what all these characters are saying and thinking. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. What
I'm saying.
So I'm not sure you're actually refuting me or saying something different.
I'm not saying that you're wrong about this play. I'm saying that I think that any Shakespeare play could be like that. I really do, and I think that I think that Taming of the Shrew, the one that we watched, was pretty clear. And I think that's...
I don't think it wasn't clear like that. It was clear, the why was clear in every way, and I was along for the ride, but it did kept shifting. Like, it was in another category of, like, why it was interesting for every second of it. I think this was interesting for every second of it because it was, like, it gave us the bait really quickly.
Interesting.
In Taming of the Shrew, it was kind of a little bit more...
it kept shifting.
Yeah, it was a little bit more elusive as far as, like, what the play was about.
Yeah.
And it kept...
But I do feel like, Caesar gets killed 45% of the way through the play, right?
Yeah.
So then what?
And it keeps going. Yeah, don't get me wrong. And I was already in because I was invested, and so it pushed me past that. But like
gotcha.
They are, I think, very different as far as like why I was interested from one second to the next.
Okay, that makes more sense. I guess I'm here. I hear you. Yeah,
okay.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Scene 2. That's like my favorite joke now.
It's my favorite.
Like the first 20 minutes is for scene 1.
I mean, I do feel like it says a lot about, when I'm thinking about directing or acting in a play like this, you gotta spend so much time on scene 1. Yeah. Like as the person trying to sort it all out, you gotta do that.
I mean, it's like the first, important line of a book is just like the first sentence, like,
and like first impression,
like hook 'em,
first date.
Yeah, for sure.
All that.
And so anyway, we kind of like skip past, but the first thing that happens in this play is that they walk in, and I'm not exactly sure what the audience sees and what is like in this filmed production, because sometimes they show us like CCTV camera footage of like what's happening. Yeah. So I'm like, did they have that on a projector? Did people see it or not? So I'm not quite sure, but for the most part, it's the same play, and they walk in, and then they have the character who is Mark Antony, who is a black woman with like red dyed hair and a fedora on and some headphones, and reveal that they're in a women's prison, and she's just like, I really like we're locked up in here, but like we really like love doing these Shakespeare plays. Like we love doing it, and it's like brings a lot of catharsis, and it gives us something to like look forward to and like practice and like rehabilitate us basically without actually saying that.
When she said that, it made me... So I have a lot of friends who have done like theater, or sometimes...
I thought you were about to say a lot of friends in prison. I was like...
No, that's not exactly what I'm going to say, but who have done a lot of theater...
Like, Chloe, you're from the burbs.
We get crazy out there. But a lot of friends who have like worked either on just theater in general or specifically Shakespeare in prisons, like in women's prisons and men's prisons, but just like either directing or adapting or like just helping coach groups of people that are incarcerated through a production of Shakespeare like this. And it's often used as something that's kind of therapeutic for prisoners to help just to help tap into some of those human impulses and get to kind of talk about them in a way that maybe they haven't, and that it's kind of an outlet.
Yeah.
And
I bet. I mean, like
it rang true of a lot of the experiences that they'd talked about. So I was like, did they consult with someone that like did they go into a prison with this group of people and like talk with people that were incarcerated?
Dude, I fucking believe it. And like I said to you, like halfway through this play, I was like, man, Julius Caesar is a gangster play.
Yeah.
It is fucking gangster, dude. It's like, it's motherfuckers, like, it's power.
Mm-hmm.
It's envy. It's pride. It's all these things, but that it's not just the emotion that's driving these people too. It's like the implication of what will it mean for, you know, for our future, for the power that this person may or may not have, for what they may or may not choose to do.
Yeah.
And now, like, you know, it's preemptive strike. It's the first strike. And so
preemptive strike
which is something that's like very real for someone who lives in like a gang-ridden area, for like something they might have to consider. And which is like, you know, it's like I can imagine it's real for anybody in any time, unless you live in a fucking bubble.
Yeah.
Of something you may have to consider.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I can see why that's the part of like the fundamental aspect that I was talking about of like why this I think is relevant, or like can ring true, or at least can tease out some empathy from a viewer.
Yeah.
If you can just follow what's happening.
Yeah.
Which I think you can with this play. So it's fun to watch. It was fun to perceive, and I thought we were gonna talk more about like we were like, oh, gender bender episode, some with women, some with one play with all women, one play with all men. I was not really thinking about men and women at all.
No.
With this play. It had nothing to do with that.
No.
And it's a couple, like maybe 3 times throughout the entire viewing, I remembered that. I was like, I don't care that this is all women are men. And it's
I love that.
And it was
frankly.
great. I just like had like a sigh of relief, like I could focus on what's happening.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Anyway.
If only the world were like that.
I'm glad that this is one of the ones that people point to as far as like, this is a great version of this. So after we get the introduction, then we have not Caesar, I'm sorry. Do we have Caesar next?
Well, so we've got the
we have the party.
Yeah, we got the party. The weird party.
It was a music cue, and they like the music came on, and it was very weird. I almost like felt like, is this a musical?
Yeah, no, honestly, it was cool.
And it was a party, and then you know, like basically it was basically like a High School Musical situation, and they're just like, Caesar is prom king, and Caesar's the best.
I agree. It was totally like that.
And they
it was
were like
super
in a lunchroom.
school.
Oh, you know what I love too about like the only set design they had? Like they basically had 0 set design, because that's how you can't have set design in a black box.
Round.
But the floor was painted like a basketball gym. Like as if the prison had a basketball court.
Get your head in the game.
Which I loved.
So
because it was kind of unnecessary.
Paul, he's Troy Bolton. Julius Caesar is Troy Bolton.
Like it was. Where's that guy from?
Bring him in.
We're all in this together. Sorry.
Is that the operatic version?
No, it was what they sang in Harry Potter musical.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Deep cut. I'm sorry.
No, I'm really glad I got you into that.
We're back.
Nerd.
I had kind of half seen it before, and then like I watched it fully.
But you got
the worst sound ever.
Too.
But like, man, Darren Criss and the guy who probably did a lot of the writing, and I feel bad that I forgot his name. Matt something. I forgot.
But man, all of that whole crew.
I bet she was always Darren Criss and the other guy.
Oh, God. It's just like Andy Samberg and The Lonely Island.
Yeah. Oh, man. And they do so much.
They do so much.
Anyway. God. Back. Get back on track. I forgot what I'm fucking say now. Oh, yeah, the basketball court. So, like, it was kind of unnecessary because, like, it's just, like, the floor, and you don't really, like, you forget where they're at.
Yeah.
But, like, they had this really awesome aerial shot that they kept cutting to of just, like, a top-down shot of, like, the play. And they cut to it really very specific and really good moments. And just, like, it being a basketball court just reminds you it was women's prison, but, like, doesn't take you out of it. It was just, like,
it was subtle.
It was subtle. It was a great choice.
Yeah.
It's a great choice.
I could not agree more.
Sorry, I don't feel like I needed to like spend so much time on that. Anyway,
I feel like it was interesting and good, and therefore, yeah.
They so yeah, Caesar is just the popular case Troy Bolton, and also has like the black leather trench coat, which is always strikes me as like super Nazi-ish when they're trying to like when like productions of Shakespeare try to like update it and like say this person is like this kind of archetype, and they put Caesar in like a black fucking like leather duster, and I'm like
evil.
And I've seen Julius Caesar like maybe 3 times in the past because it's a very popular play to put on, and I've actually seen different versions. I've seen when Caesar's portrayed as like a dick, so when they kill him, it's like we almost feel like the murderer
did it,
like the protagonist, even though like there's all this like conversation about it, and they're like guilty, and they're like they feel bad about it, but like, and I've also seen some when Caesar's just like Troy Bolton, he's like a cool dude and like popular, maybe a little bit of a kind of an asshole, but not a villain or anything. And then they kill him, and so then they're like, oh, you're the fucking asshole for killing him. So it's like, and it is a little bit hazy no matter how you spin it. Yeah. Because of like, you can't really escape what the lines are to make the actors grapple with. And so this one, I felt like they went towards the Caesar's a dick. Like almost like Caesar's a Nazi.
I mean, they definitely were going for like,
and they even had they had like Caesar, and they had like the fist pump, which is almost like a Hail Caesar, like almost like Hail Hitler kind of thing. Like
I think I'm not gonna lie, I think you're exaggerating it a little bit. Like I think you're pointing it in the villain direction a little more than they were going for. But I think they were going for like, he's kind of a dick. I am not reading it like I'm like taking that in. I felt like when I saw it, I thought that's what they were going for. Interesting.
And so I may be missing it in that sense.
I think that you're like leather trench coat evil.
Maybe going back from
which I understand
from the Titus episode.
Yeah. No, which I understand, and like, and
but
I think
not
it's
just
worth
that. Like
it's worth noting.
Caesar came, like literally the body language, like they came in just like yeah, like the fucking like times 10 smug look on his face, just like, yeah, I'm fucking the shit, everything's great. And it wasn't like it wasn't comedy, like it wasn't like sarcastic, it was just like everything's great, and when I say something, everybody fucking fist pumps, Hail Caesar, Hail Hitler. Like that's what it kind of felt like. It felt like it was like building us up, so because I knew that he was gonna get killed, because like everybody kind of knows that story. Yeah. And that's just what it felt like to me. Like it wasn't so much, again, because he got killed before the play was halfway done. Like they didn't spend so much time on it, but it just felt like they were just like, okay, quickly, Caesar's a dick, not the tyrant, but a fucking dick, and now they're gonna kill him before he becomes a tyrant, maybe. Like, and that's part of the moral dilemma. Yeah. So like it's a complicated like play already, but like I thought they were trying to make that part clear, and clearly I'm
no. I think you're right. I think your analysis of like, he's a dick, not a tyrant. Yeah. I think that's what it feels like. Like he's kind of a dick. Like he's kind of letting this go to his head, but he's not a tyrant. Like he refused the crown.
Yes. It's like, it's not like straight up Hitler, but it's like they did a couple things that were like Nazi reminiscent, and I thought it was to do that.
Interesting.
Like, to like put that in our heads, like, oh, it could be.
Like, I think that's exactly it. I think it's supposed to be, it could be, as opposed to it is.
Yeah. No, that's what I was trying to say, just probably ineloquently.
Paul, you're eloquent as fuck.
Dude, I'm so goddamn eloquent.
Okay, calm down.
Okay, so, yeah. So I wrote down, Caesar is a dick? Question mark.
That's it. I feel like that's exactly it. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Wait. So is that kind of what it's supposed to? I feel like I've seen different gradations of that.
No, here's the thing.
And it's supposed to, and again, I have like modern Western sensibilities, and I'm pinging it off of every other movie I've saw. And I'm like, usually like there's clear archetypes just so I know what I'm supposed to think about somebody. And again, I'm not arguing against complexity, but like I'm kind of looking for those cues. Like, what am I supposed to feel about this person? And then like, how am I? Yeah. So I guess it is on. I'm sorry, Lloyd. Phyllida Lloyd to like chew it for me and update it and like help me find the middle ground.
Yeah.
But I think that she did a good job, and
Me too.
And the fact that I want to talk about it is like, I guess
I think that's the result that she was looking for, frankly.
The positive result.
And especially because of the fact that like Brutus's whole thing is questioning, is Caesar a dick? If Caesar's a dick, will Caesar turn into a dictator?
Yeah.
Does dick equate dictator? That was not very good.
I'm
gonna shut up. But I will shut myself down. But I do feel like it is interesting to me. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I do feel like, you know, if Caesar's perfect, then that doesn't feel as human to me, and it feels like, well, why the hell is anyone killing Caesar? And they're all just obviously dicks. And if Caesar's totally a dick, then I'm like, yeah, they killed him, good job. And then I'm like, oh, they died at the end. That sucks.
Sometimes when you say that, when you like take that route, I feel like you're copping out, and I hate it. But I feel like you're totally justified this time.
No, I get why you feel like I'm copping out in those situations, but I'm glad you get why I'm justified, because I'm totally correct and brilliant. But I think that this is one of the things, and you know, I know that whenever I say like Shakespeare's so human, you're like, yeah, shut up, whatever. But like
it's such a nothing answer.
It is a nothing answer, but it's the reason that I like Shakespeare is because he's so human, and that is multifaceted. But the one of the specific aspects of that is it's complicated. It's a gray area. Like is Caesar a dick? That's
not a specific aspect, Chloe.
No, my specific aspect is Caesar a dick?
Okay.
And that question, and us having to grapple with that as the audience. And I think, you know, it's interesting if we have to watch Brutus grapple with that, but it's more interesting if we also have to grapple with that and be like, is he a dick? I don't know. Is Brutus right? I don't know. Oh shit. I don't know.
For what this production, I think, was trying to show me, and we'll probably never finish this conversation, and like, but like I have to push, like, cause like I feel like I do, and I believe that you mean something specific, and you have a specific idea in your head, but I do believe that it's just like so complicated that it's just like it takes a long time to tease out these conversations about like what you mean. But it's such the answer is just like, oh, it's so human. Like, what? So anyway.
I know what you mean, but like, I think the point is that the example lies within the plays rather than in the general point. Like I'm trying to.
I'm happy to just like push through with this point to get to that answer.
I know, but to be specific about it, I have to synthesize it all by saying it's so human, because there's a lot of different things that happen in these plays. I have to shorthand it because one thing cannot possibly cover all of this stuff other than that. But I
believe you. I'm just one example of because I have to.
I know you do. That's your job. But like I like the gray area of it. I like us having to ask ourselves questions.
I don't like it in and of itself, and sometimes I feel like that's what before we had like came to like a consensus that like there is something there, we just have to find it. Before we got to that point. I felt like I was getting that answer from you, and it seemed like it was just like complication in and of itself was like valuable, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, no. And so that is what I was kind of like grappling with. And so, but like complication as it reflects the truth about nature and about human nature is valuable. So like reflecting that truth in all, like literally, like if you saw something complicated and they're like, I can't see it, show it to me, and you just like hold up a mirror and like it just reflecting the truth, that's valuable, and like in all of its complexity. So like that attempt and that endeavor is the most valuable thing ever, and I'm here for that. And so, but that's a hard thing to explain in even of itself. Like, I feel like I may have lost some listeners, like, just getting to that point. So, I mean,
but that's what we're getting at.
So in that specific endeavor, we are on the same ship.
Yeah.
And so let's fucking
Let's do it. Let's keep going. We're not gonna stop now. Fast and Furious 15.
Man, what if we had The Rock as a guest? That'd be so dope.
Oh, let's call him.
I wonder if you like Shakespeare. Dwayne, do you like Shakespeare?
Should I text him?
Text him. Do it. So we have after the party and shit, which Caesar kisses Antony. I'm like, is Caesar and Antony lovers?
Wow.
What?
I like. It seemed like
it
it
never
like
comes up again. But
no,
I mean, like,
Antony
it's a
totally
funny thing.
kissed him.
Yeah,
and also Antony
Caesar
serenaded him.
Caesar took Antony like he was the fucking like the Navy, like the famous Navy statue where the guy like in World War II like kisses the nurse and
It's not
like
a statue.
bends her
That's
over.
a photo.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a statue somewhere. It's in Watchmen.
It's probably a statue. It's in Watchmen. There must be one.
But it was lesbians in Watchmen, so this is like that's probably more.
It was lesbians in Watchmen.
Anyway,
just like in Julius Caesar. Sorry, I'm fine.
So I don't know. That was just like a offhand thing. Like it probably is like a women's prison like adaptation. Anyway,
it did feel like that though. It felt like there was a deeper relationship there. Like
it was a fun thing to dive into because of the fact that Antony wouldn't abandon the memory and the love of Caesar after Caesar died.
Yeah.
Romantic love would be a really strong motivation to do that.
I think so. I mean, I would love to see a production that leaned into that even more because it was fun. Like I thought it was super interesting and. Like that the first thing that happens in the like play within the play once we get into it is Antony serenades Caesar before the whole party shows up.
Yeah,
like crazy.
It was very much like 10 Things I Hate About You, like singing the song in the bleachers.
Oh, Heath! Can't take
it was exactly that,
my eyes off
honestly.
you. Yeah.
And then we have immediately.
I love you, baby, and if it's quite alright, I need you, baby.
I'll wait till you finish.
To hold me through the night.
Yeah, we got all night.
I don't know the rest of the words.
Good.
Okay, go on. So then what happens?
So we have Cassius and I know names. Cassius and Brutus.
Yeah.
Who we all know from history.
Yeah, we just know this general story. Oh yeah. You asked this question. Yeah.
Why isn't Julius Caesar a history?
So there are a couple other plays that are vaguely based on like.
Okay, wait.
History.
So I also apologize.
Yeah.
Shakespeare plays. We have the comedies, the tragedies, and the histories. We've talked about this in previous episodes.
Yes.
But
if you're tuning in now,
like they are separated into these three categories. Julius Caesar is based on historical actual events, just like all the Henrys and Richards and plays that Shakespeare
all those
has.
assholes.
Which is based on fairly recent British history of the time, as opposed to Roman history, which is of a foreign and long away place. But like, why isn't this considered a history?
I mean, you basically just described why. Is that the history?
I'm so fucking smart.
The histories. Get out of here. The histories are recent-ish British history. So like, most of Shakespeare's plays are set overseas in other countries in a different time period. The histories are set in England in a different time period, but they're the closest to like now and here that he wrote. Julius Caesar is set in a different place, in a different time, super far off. Because of that fact, it's counted as a tragedy. Yeah.
Anyway, in case you were wondering, this is not...
But it's still that thing of like pastoral, tragical, historical, comical of like all of these plays, like, sure, we're trying to categorize them, or they would have tried to categorize them, or whatever, but they're more complicated than that. And
bro, my band's like, we don't really have a genre.
Exactly.
We play songs in like every genre, bro.
But
it's
they're
like,
exactly, which is how you've hit upon the reason that they're categorized, is because otherwise we'd be like, well, I don't get it. There's no elevator pitch
Chloe,
for...
I love organization. You don't have to sell me on organization. I will always categorize.
I know.
Back to the story.
We're gonna have like a music. I feel like I wish like we should have like a music.
That's what you sound like.
We should have like a music like cue for like when I like just jump out. By the way, and then we have like a 20-minute conversation. Back to the timeline. All right. Okay, so Cassius and Brutus are talking about. Cassius is really trying to convince Brutus of something in this conversation, and this is like where we establish the conflict and the motive of our characters. I would almost say I almost said protagonist, and I backed away from it because nobody's the protagonist in this play. But I feel like Brutus is kind of the main character of the play.
Yeah, Brutus is for sure the lead.
And so Cassius is like trying to convince him of something. And he's trying to convince him of something like that you should be the leader and that Caesar ain't shit without you. And then like basically there's no need for Caesar's obsolete and you should be in charge. And then kind of implying that in order for you to be in charge, we gotta fucking kill Caesar. Mm-hmm. Like that's really kind of what we're saying. And like and the way this is played, and this is like kind of like is interesting for it's clear in bold strokes to like so I can know who these characters are and like what they're kind of who they are and what their motivations are. But it starts to like really bother me later on in the story. But as it is right now, the woman who's playing Brutus seems like super innocent. Just like, I don't want no power, man. I'm just trying to fucking just do my job and just fucking chill out. And then the woman who's playing Cassius is just like, no, man, like you're the best. You're the best fucking person ever. Like you don't even see that in yourself. Let me be your mirror, man. I'm gonna show you. Like look at me right here.
Let me show you
like,
how dope you are.
I'm your mirror. I'm gonna be your glass, and I'm gonna reflect back to you the fucking dopest shit you are, man. Your dick's so big. Your dick is so big. Ooh, boy. You can be the leader of all of Rome. Let's kill Caesar. Like that is what is happening.
I mean, that's exactly what's happening. That's why I'm laughing. Yeah. That's exactly what he's doing.
So you don't need to watch the play. Just like that is what the lines are. So and
oh my god.
But like and so it's beautiful and it's like it's not beautiful. It's clear for what Shakespeare's setting up for these characters and for the trajectory, and that's what I'm saying. Is like just after you get to that scene, you know exactly what the play is about, and now the juice is the why and like how it all falls down. Like the domino is set up, and so, but like it bothers me towards as we get through later in the play. But we'll get to that. But it doesn't feel as conspiratorial as I thought it might. It felt just super earnest.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the point of the play. And I'll lay this card down now. I was like, I'll save this for the end.
Hit me.
But I do feel like the point of this play is that it's, and this is so funny because this is totally something that I feel like you align with as a human and that I'm always kind of like, but other things matter too. But it's not about what you intended or what you wanted or how you justify it to yourself. It's about what you did and your actions.
Ooh.
And I think that's what this play is about at its core. Because
wait, why are you still like, wait, why are you pinging that for me? Is it because
it reminds me of that thing that you're always like you're just making fun of like, oh, they tried their best. Sure, okay.
Oh, dude, but that's like so different. It's not like oh, well, I said something and you got offended by it. It's like, you killed that person. That's like, those are two different things.
No, I know, but like, yeah, no, I know we're on the same page about this, but like, yeah, but I think in this specific situation, it becomes super clear that like, it's about what you did. It's not about like, oh, but I felt bad about it.
Yeah.
Because, like, I feel like Brutus's whole thing, and I could even hear you reacting to this when we were watching it, is like, Brutus is like, oh, but I feel bad that I killed him. It's like, no, you fucking killed him.
Yes. I mean...
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you feel bad.
The degree has a huge effect on the nature of the thing that got done. Mm-hmm. Like there is a maybe another circumstance where Brutus may have an argument if the degree of the thing he did wasn't murder. if it maybe was something else and it's smaller. So like, I think that deserves like the argument, but I don't think we're in like a court of law trying to argue like the merits of like ways of being and like
No, we're not.
and certain motives here. But yes, I'm putting that out there, is that like Brutus may have had an argument if the degree of the thing he did wasn't murder.
Yeah.
So I'm also pointing out like the fact that like certain arguments or certain like maxims like have limits.
Yeah.
And they become different things with different circumstances.
For sure.
Again, you can't categorize the world, whether you want to be Kantian or you want to be utilitarian. Like, you can't create a system that will accommodate for every single situation that could ever possibly happen.
No.
All right, now enough with the ethical philosophy. We'll get back to what we're fucking talking about here.
Chekhov?
All right, so next we follow Brutus after that conversation with him and Cassius, who they're brothers, by the way.
What?
They're brothers, by the way.
Who are?
Cassius and Brutus.
Mm.
And we follow Brutus with his wife, who is pregnant. And this whole scene is basically her saying, "You think you're dope, but you're a fucking asshole." Like, she's fucking stressed out. She's got a black eye, which implies he's fucking been beating her ass.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am so new to this kind of process that I know you go through all the time when you read text and then have to like string together the constellation of the acts that someone does and the words that a character says and then create who they are. Like, that concept is so new to me. Like, I guess it's obvious in retrospect,
Mm-hmm.
but like, it's like I have never like retroactively did that. Like, I've always accepted when I watched a movie that like that's who they are.
Yeah.
But now I'm like starting to listen to the words they say and feel the thing and see the things they do, and then like come up with my own version of who that is and then match that against the person I see on screen.
Yeah.
So like, and sometimes
my whole life.
and sometimes that's like wildly different. And
Yeah.
like, but I'm so new to that. Usually I'm very like passively accepting all of those things. And sometimes the movie just doesn't feel right, but I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah.
And like all these different things. And so it's a new form of
Analysis.
of analysis and therefore entertainment when I see something like Shakespeare, which I know is 400 years old, and which I know certain stage directions were never given, which I know sarcasm was not denoted, which I know all these other things were not done, and I see all these choices being made that are brilliant and ring so true, and now appreciate this art on this new level that I understand.
It's fucking dope.
I know.
I'm so happy.
And so when his wife, who is pregnant with a black eye they gave her, which again I'm sure was not denoted in the text, but it's clear by like I imagine someone can amalgamate all those lines that his wife had said, and also knowing that later in the play she kills herself, understanding that she is a tortured and probably brutalized and victim of Brutus's fucking like insecurities.
Yeah.
You know, and so they
Shit, girl.
and she has all these lines like, oh, and you know, and I have been the recipient of all your love and all these other things. But every time she says he loves her, it's like sarcastic, and it's just like it is just so like her words just like drip with all of this like contempt and like
and
venom,
frustration.
but she's saying all like technically saying like positive things. So that's what I'm saying. Like if I read this play, like I'd have to read it like 5 times before like really understood all of these like sarcastic beats where somebody was saying something but meant the opposite.
Right.
And it just felt so true the way they're playing it this time, where it was just easy to follow.
Yeah, it was
loved it.
nice. I liked it a lot. I thought like when it was interesting, like I really liked the choice of the black eye and that whole situation, but I also like the Brutus that I saw on stage. And this is interesting too. I felt like I was like, I can't imagine this person being a domestic abuser.
Yes, me too. This is another reason I was having a problem with it.
Yeah, he was just like, I'm just fucking innocent Brutus over here, man. I just want to do my job.
Right, which also made me feel interested because I feel like, you know, just from what I've heard from people about domestic abuse, like it's not always the people you suspect or the people you expect that like do that or that take things out on their significant others. And
I mean, I believe that.
I know, me too. And so I'm wondering if like it was a statement that had to do with that because he didn't seem like someone who would do that.
You
know what I mean? Like, so I can't tell.
I had a problem with it. I had a problem with the way Brutus was played in general throughout the rest of the play as well. Because fucking, like, even before they killed him, like Brutus was so, like, had no resolve. It felt like Brutus didn't have any resolve. And it felt like, and so at that point, it almost felt like Cassius was taking over the play. It felt like Cassius was like, and so they had the whole like conversation like later on, which was like Cassius was like, I'm a soldier. I'm like, you know, like I'm fucking doing it. And Brutus was like, no, you're not. Like, I'm like, that would have actually made sense. Like if Cassius was just like I'll fucking do what I need to do. Like I'll go fight wars abroad and I'll fight wars at home. And like if you need me to fucking kill somebody, I'll fucking kill him. Like, you know, like...
So wait, are you saying Brutus didn't have resolve or Cassius didn't have resolve?
I'm saying Brutus felt like he didn't have resolve. Yeah. Brutus felt like he was trying to convince everybody that, like, right before we go fucking, like, like, kill Caesar, like, kill the president, fucking, like, kill the head of state, right before we go do this thing that I'm sure it's very difficult for me to convince you all to do in the first place, let me go give you a bunch of reasons why we shouldn't do it. Or like why we should feel bad about it. Like it's the opposite thing you would say. Or like the way he was saying it felt like he was regretting it before they did it.
I think it's not about regret. It's about him trying to absolve himself.
It's him trying to absolve himself and like paint the picture of him. Like, but my point is it reeked of lack of resolve. Of like that you actually wanted to do it. It felt like he was like on the high dive trying to convince himself that he had already jumped. Like, you know, like
yeah.
I
totally think people do that. I totally believe that. I buy it.
Yes. Cool. But it wasn't a button that he can convince someone to press and it would just happen on its own. It still needed to happen. And he still needed the resolve of like these people to do it.
Yeah.
So the speech having that tone felt very incongruous with reality.
I think I gotta be honest with you. I feel like everything you're saying is true, but it feels like it makes sense to me. Like I feel like
weird.
I feel like Cassius, like the thing you said about Cassius, it felt like Cassius was taking over the play. Yeah, 100%. He's the one that's really like pushing this whole thing to happen.
Yes.
And the thing that you're saying about like it doesn't make sense that he's giving this speech to everybody to try to convince them to kill Caesar. Like they're already in line to kill Caesar, basically. He's just kind of hopping on that boat. If anything, it's peer pressure towards him to do it.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really need to convince them to do it, I think is the only difference between what we're saying. But like I hear what you're saying about like it's a terrible speech. It would not convince anyone to do anything.
Yes.
But it's him trying to convince himself. Because everyone else is already convinced.
Yeah.
He's the one that's like not feeling good about this.
Yeah. And I don't have a huge problem with it. I mean, like I had a problem with it because like if that is the thing that is like galvanizing the men to like go through it and they're like to go through with it and they're like on the fence, then it would not have worked. But like in the case that everybody already wanted to kill Caesar, maybe everybody had their own motivations, and like that snowball is already rolling, which is kind of the theme of this play as well.
Yeah,
is that once you start a political snowball rolling, you don't know where it's gonna go.
Yeah,
people will do what they're gonna do, and you know, like that's pretty universal as well. So if that's the case, then like where we have taken it for granted that Caesar's about to die, all these people are on board, and we're dealing with somebody's guilt and conflicted emotions about doing it.
Yeah. Okay, I think now is the perfect time to introduce my ludicrous theory. So here's my ludicrous theory. My obscene theory that has no basis in reality, but just for some reason I keep thinking about it, and especially watching this production. I was wondering if maybe Shakespeare, why am I even saying this? But I can't not say it. Maybe Shakespeare wanted to write a play about Judas and Jesus.
I was thinking about the same thing.
You were?
Yes.
But like I felt
the whole time.
It felt like he wanted to write a play about Judas feeling reluctant about portraying Jesus.
I was thinking about this
but he
the
couldn't
entire
do
play.
it. But he couldn't do it
The
because
entire play.
you can't get that personal with religion in that time period. No fucking way. So you have to do it through some sort of layer. Like
I kept forgetting.
Like literally JC is Jesus Christ, Julius Caesar.
Judas rhymes with Brutus.
Right.
Like yes.
Okay. So I'm not crazy.
You're not crazy.
Okay.
It is so close. But this story was famous long before Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And I remember learning about it in history class. And I almost had like a weird like moment where I'm like, wait, was this fiction? Did this happen? I remember when I saw Titanic, I'm like, wait, did Titanic happen?
Interesting.
Was it a thing? I remember there's a girl in my history class in high school. We're like, did Titanic happen? And everybody's like, no, you idiot. But then
what?
But like a few people were like, no, you idiot. And then like the rest of the class was like, no, you idiot. It did happen.
That's so
sometimes
weird.
It's easy to confuse what actually happened when you see it like depicted, because it's like it gets categorized in your mind with like,
a myth,
these are the
story,
movies.
Yeah.
Movies aren't real.
That's funny.
So yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. Like I almost thought like, oh, he wrote this play like it's genius because he's doing Judas, and I'm like, oh wait, no, this actually happens.
It did.
Maybe he's just like the play when they're talking about like, oh, if the river's coursing, fucking, will we not go on the river like the direction it goes? Like, maybe he's just like, well, it's the same shit. So like, it's a parable, but that happened in real life. I had this moment like when we were watching the movie. I was just this not euphoria or like epiphany, but like that same kind of like just like moment of significance where everything like kind of like hits you like an epiphany, and you're just like, this is like the comedy and tragedy all rolled into one of life that I imagine he was just like understanding as he like made that connection between Judas and Brutus and Jesus and Julius Caesar.
It's ridiculous. JC, Julius Caesar.
He must have been like
Jesus
laughing
Christ.
and crying and writing this at the same time.
I feel like that about so much of his writing.
And I feel almost like dumb. Like I'm sure like half the people listening must be like, oh, obvious. Like, yeah. Like
nah. I feel like I think it's interesting. And I'm sure there's a bunch of scholarly articles about this that we could read.
It is so obvious that it's ridiculous how those stories align.
It almost hurts.
And even Jesus Christ Superstar. Like,
yeah.
I know you don't love Andrew Lloyd Webber, but like
I don't hate him.
But like it is like I love the it's very much
don't you know that I want us to live.
It's very much like Wicked, like weaving like, oh, maybe this bad person like still did the thing that they regret, but like had some like reasonable and like logical thought processes that led them to this decision.
I mean, I think Jesus Christ Superstar might be the most specifically relevant version of the Jesus Judas story to Shakespeare's Julius Caesar.
Me too.
Yeah, no, honestly, the parallels are very strong there. And I think
I couldn't escape it is how much I kept thinking about it.
And if I'm Shakespeare too, I think the most interesting story to
tell. You think Shakespeare's like Jesus Christ Superstar?
Duh. Sorry, I'm just thinking about the King Midas songs now. It's so funny. Is it Midas? Yeah. But anyway, am I thinking of the ancient Greek story? I don't know. But
No, just sit here and think about it for a while.
I don't want to. I don't want to think about Jesus Christ Superstar.
Just ponder it in silence.
I don't
want to
think about Jesus Christ Superstar any more than I have to. But going back to Shakespeare, if I were him, I would be most interested in writing a story not about like a Judas or a Brutus. God, they rhyme so well. That is like, yeah, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna betray him. Cool. I'm most interested in writing a story about a guy who's like, I don't want to, but I'm gonna. Or like, I want to, but I don't think I should, so I have to justify it to myself.
Right?
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's most interesting in both those cases. I really think, I don't know why. I just think he wanted to write a Jesus story and couldn't, and just was like, oh, this is similar enough. But either way.
Yeah. I mean, I think this would have been totally fascinating for him to like sink his teeth into. And I think it was just, if I was somebody who was pressured by the logistics of the time and the, you know, the culture and the laws of the time and all those pressures, and happened to come across or happened to think about this story and make that connection, I think it would have just been like fascinating to write. I think because it was safe enough and yet still juicy enough.
Yeah.
Which I think was his whole thing. So I
Totally.
don't know. Like it seemed like it was like the perfect storm. Like it happened upon something that was like obvious in retrospect.
Jesus Christ, superstar. Do you think you're what they say you are? Herod, not Midas. What am I doing? It's Herod.
It would be funny if it was like 30 minutes from now and you're just like in the middle of this. Herod, god damn it!
Oh God, he's not turning things into gold, you idiot.
So they have, I forgot the name of this person. Who's the Scottish lady? Scottish dude.
Oh,
lady,
it's
dude.
it's Casca. It's like Casca.
Casca.
Is that right?
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah, something like
And
that.
they're like, go send Caesar. And if Caesar, go send for Caesar. And if Caesar don't want to come, tell him his pee-pee small.
This was also the same person who on her first entrance said, like, was talking. So this is when we're still getting into the play. And she said, crown. And really emphasized the, like, kind of like that. Like, really, so that we cued into... It really felt like it was to help us as the audience to be like, crown. Okay, got it. Crown. Crown is important. Crown.
So
without talking down to us. It was great.
The conceit of the conversation between Cassius and Brutus was that like, oh, we're gonna summon for Caesar to the Senate because we still a democracy technically, though we have like a president, and we're gonna kill this motherfucker. And then we're going to install our new head of state.
Like an iOS update.
And they call for Caesar, and they just send Casca just like as a messenger, but as also one of the senators, I guess, maybe, who cares? Goes to get Caesar, and he's like, it's like, Caesar, come on, we don't have a fucking club meeting. We need you. And Caesar's like, nah, I don't want to come, and that's all I need to say. He's like, oh, you scared? And he's like, no, I just said I won't come. That's it. And
I'm not scared.
And his wife is like, oh, don't do it. Oh,
I had a bad dream.
Some bad shit's gonna happen. I seen the prophecy. I seen it, and you gonna die. And Caesar's like, I won't come. Get out of here. My peepee's not small. And then he's like,
it's his whole character arc.
Yeah, pretty much. And then basically he just like injures his pride enough to where he's just like, fine, I'll come, because I'm a big man. Big man. And that's like basically that whole scene, right?
It really is.
Am I losing it?
You're not wrong.
Okay, yeah, and then they go back to the fucking scene, and then Caesar shows up, and Caesar's just like, yeah, yo, what's up, man? It's Big Mike and Big Scrooge and Big Big Donnie and Dave, and they're fucking like slapping hands and like whacking dicks and like
Yeah.
and they're just being bros.
Yeah.
And just like
with Scooch.
And little does Caesar know, like everybody's just about to kill this motherfucker, like real bad. He about to get Jon Snowed at the end of season 6, like real bad.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that scene, like that Jon Snow scene, is clearly based on this.
Oh,
it totally is.
It was kind of like hilarious.
Yeah.
And I'd seen Hail Caesar before, but
You mean Julius Caesar?
I'm sorry, Hail Caesar. Julius Caesar.
What's Hail Caesar?
Hail Caesar is it's a Kaufman Kaufman Brothers something
Movie?
Yes, it's a movie made by
some brothers,
critically renowned and like well respected, but also like it's the same people who made Burn After Reading. Charlie, no.
I'm so bad at pop culture.
Kaufman
I'm sorry.
Brothers? Something Brothers. I don't know.
I know which Shakespeare plays are histories.
It's like directors that are like well respected, but also like kind of obscure and like kind of sometimes hard to understand. Coen Brothers.
It
maybe.
is? Was that right? Okay.
Hail
cool.
Caesar. George Clooney is one of the stars.
I'm brilliant. I know everything. Cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
My PB's
Charlie
big.
Kaufman is who, as Jim Carrey was depicting in Man on the Moon. I'm like, it is. Sorry, I just had to say that because I finally clicked in my head. Anyway, the Senate murder scene. I have questions.
Hit me.
Who is Simba?
What?
Caesar keeps referring to somebody as Simba, like, and
it's
I'm like
something that sounds like Simba. Let me find it.
And I'm like, who the fuck is Simba?
I know what you're talking about, but now that you've said Simba, I can't think of the real name.
No, like they're saying in English, like a British accent, but they're saying Simba. They said that like multiple times, and I could not pick it up. Okay, my other question was, what are the Ides of March?
March 15th. Nothing interesting.
I also have written.
Oh, you're thinking of Publius Cimber.
Oh, Simba is with a British accent. Yeah, Publius Cimber. What is that?
It's a dude.
It's a dude?
Yeah.
Does it mean anything? Do I need to know who he is?
Not really. No. The answer's no.
Well, that was, again, much less. I thought it was going to be something way bigger than that. I'm trying to read what I fucking wrote here.
You're good.
I thought I would get, man. I wrote fourth wall break, and I wrote how many times. Do you remember that moment?
When they looked in the camera?
No. When they said fourth wall break, and they said how many times.
How many times?
It has something to do with like how many times will like this thing keep happening.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about because I pointed out to you. It was okay. Wait, hold on. I wrote it down. It was. How many ages hence shall this our lofty scene be acted?
Yeah,
because it was such hubris too. Because they were like, yeah, how long in the future will they be telling our story of us that killed Caesar? And wasn't it amazing that we saved the world and we saved our country, and it'll be so clear to the people in the future how awesome we were for doing that.
I love it.
And like this story is already being laid out in a way that's clearly like, oh, your hubris asses are gonna be so hubrised. And then
they kill Caesar. They kill Caesar. And Caesar's actually like sitting down in the audience at this point, which is like really cool.
It was awesome because they like stab him right next to.
And they pump a bottle of Clorox bleach in his mouth, and they just like squeeze it.
Yeah.
And they just like and then they proceed to Jon Snow him, and they just like, you go, and then now you go, and then at that point like, Brutus is Ollie, and he just like, you do Ollie, and he's
A2 Ollie.
And he just goes next, and he's fucking dead.
Full disclosure, I could not remember who Ollie was when Paul said that.
I was kind of really disappointed in her.
I was like, who's Ollie? And he
fuck Ollie.
And I was like, oh, the kid. Yeah. I was like, cool.
And then they all.
I was like, you mean Brutus?
And then again, Brutus is like, oh, we killed him, and like my guilt is just like creeping up my veins, so I need to just like. We have to like dip our hands in his blood to like, to like show that like we're not ashamed of this kind of. And they put on these like red, basically washing dishes gloves.
Yeah, because
like,
the whole point, the
and
whole time in this play up to this point, there's been no fake blood.
Yeah.
Which I think was a really interesting choice because of the circumstances of them being in this prison.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool that they had these red gloves because the imagery and the references they keep making to their bloody hands are really frequent and strong, and like it's about the guilt. It's about the...
And that's a big part of this play is like the blood on the hands part of this play.
Who
like,
has blood on their hands?
How do you do that? And like what, and like showing that like we willingly have blood on our hands because we're trying. We're
not ashamed.
Exactly. We are the heroes, yet we're depicted as like normally what you would see as a villain.
Yeah.
But the way they also did this is that they put down these gloves and they had the blood on their hands, and then they like posed for a picture.
Yeah.
And then the picture, and like because we watched a filmed production of it, they just like cut to the with the, like a little like shutter sound like and of them
on the
just
screen.
like fucking posing for an Instagram shot of
their hands, their bloody hands.
It was fucking great.
It was perfect.
It was so good.
And it's that thing too of like, it's like when you're in middle school and you get that haircut and you're like, yeah, this is gonna be the thing that I look back on and I'm like, that's when I became cool. And then like, 20 years later you look back and you're like, oh god. But at the moment you're like, yeah, this is gonna be the thing that I look back on and go, wow, what a cool kid that did that. I'm so proud of myself. And no.
That's actually a hilarious analogy. I love it.
Thank you.
It's perfect. Like it aged
is.
like milk. Like,
yes, it aged like not a fine wine.
It's a really funny subreddit. Aged like milk.
Aged like milk. Are you gonna make that tonight before you go to bed?
No. It is a subreddit.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a funny subreddit.
That's great. Well, now I want to look at it.
Yeah.
You know what? So the next thing that happens is the Antony thing, where Antony shows up, and
yes,
this is
where I feel like it would be difficult if you weren't fully on what was happening. It might be difficult to read if you didn't know that you should be reading it in subtext.
Yeah. But before we get into that, I just want to say the whole Antony Julius Caesar relationship to me reminds me of those memes that everyone has about like, I don't know if you probably don't follow these memes because I follow all these like...
Chloe, I follow all the Shakespeare memes that ever were made.
But like there are all these like old literature memes that are like, historians being like, oh wow, they were such good friends, and the text is like, and then they made out passionately. Like if it's like a same-sex couple, they're like, they made out passionately, and the historians are like, wow, because they were good friends. They were amazing friends.
Yeah.
Like, just people looking back at it and being like, that's not gay at all, I swear. Just, like, just a lot of... Especially the way it was depicted here. But I think in the text, too, it feel like Antony and Julius Caesar feels very romantic to me.
I don't know.
Like, maybe not. It doesn't have to be. But I think it definitely was here.
I don't... it honestly seems irrelevant.
I know, I kind of felt like that too, especially, and it for some reason that feels tied in with the gender thing. Maybe
if one of my best friends that like I saw every day got betrayed, like my allegiance to them and like avenging would be really strong and very close to if that happened to you.
Yeah,
like the principle of the betrayal stacked against the respect I had for the person would be the focus and kind of make irrelevant my specific relationship to them.
It transcends whether it's romantic or not.
Yes.
Which is cool, and I feel like...
I feel it feels very petty for someone to be like, oh, it was fucking romantic. Sure, like go ahead and like posit that, but like for me to fight over it, I have zero energy to do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree. I like that analysis. Yeah, like sure we can posit over it, we can ship it in our heads or whatever, but like it kind of doesn't matter. It's more about the depth of the relationship. If I thought this person
was a good leader and I thought they were like betrayed in such a fucking
and they were like my best
nasty
friend.
way.
Yeah.
Like my motivation to avenge and like what Antony did would look the same in either case.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I agree. Then what happened?
Then what happened? I don't know what that was. So Anthony, who is Caesar's right-hand man, right-hand woman, came up and he's like, oh shit, y'all just killed Caesar. I don't want to die too, so I'm gonna act like I'm on your side. Oh, you killed Caesar? Oh, well, I mean, you probably had a real good reason, because you guys are like so dope. You guys are generals and stuff, so like, I mean, you guys got a reason, right? Like, right? And they're like, oh, fucking for sure, bro. We totally got reasons. We got, like, we were talking about democracy. We thought we were gonna do all this shit. He was gonna do this shit. So we basically had to kill him. And he's like, oh, fucking, I bet, man. I just need like, what reason though? Like, tell me, what's up? And they're like, oh, man, we got so many reasons. And so, they're like, and that's, like, I know I'm like bullshitting right now and I'm like kind of like fluffing, but that's how they're playing it. They're like, they quickly realize, or I think everybody not everybody had lines here. So I imagine a lot of the posse that came to kill Caesar wanted to kill him for their own reasons, for envy, for lust, for like, for like petty reasons.
Yeah.
But like who the face of it was Brutus. Yeah. And Brutus was still lying to himself, I think. So that's my analysis. I'm sure there are different versions of this, but Brutus was still like, I'm fucking like, we had so many reasons, like all the reasons of what that he had. Like it's like I had no 50 songs, and you're like, okay, go ahead and play one, and you're like, oh shit, I don't know any songs.
Yeah, it's just like that.
Like he, like all of his excuses that he was making for his real reasons to kill Caesar were like kind of just dissipate, and he's just like, oh yeah, I got so many because Caesar was gonna be like a fucking tyrant, and like all these things were gonna happen, but we have a recent example of Caesar, specifically I imagine for this scene, like Caesar, like one scene before, had refused the powers of ultimate emperor like 3 times in a row. Yeah. And he had, as opposed to like, because he's the president and still has like has to deal with parliamentary kind of like procedures and like, a balance of power. And they're like, do you want to be like emperor? And he's like, nah. And they're like, 2 more times, are you sure you want to be emperor? He's like, nah. And then he got killed. So like for them to claim that it was Caesar's ambition that drove them to kill him, like, doesn't hold any weight. It
really doesn't. And part of the thing that I think this is Cassius that argues this to Brutus at the beginning and says, like, well, yeah, he refused it 3 times, but like it seemed like he wanted to take it. So yeah, which I feel like falls back into that whole like thing of projecting things onto people, or like trying to make excuses for something, or looking at someone's potential intentions rather than their actions. Like maybe Caesar did want to take it. Maybe Caesar is kind of a dick who did want to take the crown, but he didn't. Yeah. And I think that's what's important.
It is 1,000% what's important.
Yeah,
like,
and I think the play makes it clear that that's what's important. Yeah.
And that it would have been super unclear, and I think to a certain extent not helpful if you muddied it so much just to be like, oh, like what is important and what's happening? Like fucking choose one. Yeah. Choose what thing you're trying to say and fucking say it. And like, it is clear in this play or this production. I don't know if other ones make it unclear, but I feel like I didn't pick up on the 2 or 3 other productions that I've seen besides this as clearly as this one what was happening. Yeah. And when they like specifically said Caesar denied the emperor crown 3 times, and then yet Brutus still tried to claim that it was Caesar's ambition that drove Brutus to like kill him. Yeah. Because like I remember like I asked you like during the play, I'm like, okay, I'm missing something. Why does he keep saying ambition? Because that fucking did not happen.
And I was basically like,
and you're
yes.
You're just like, you're not missing anything. I'm like, okay. So I can like continue on my way understanding that Brutus is lying to himself. Yes. Which is like, it's profound enough. It's okay that we know what's going on and we know what the play is trying to say. so I can evaluate it thus.
Yeah. Oh, this is also around the point where you were like, why do they keep going ed at the end of words? Livid.
I had a plan that I was gonna start saying ed at every word, but I couldn't fucking like adjust my speech quickly enough.
Oh my god. But so the reason for that is not just to be fucking fancy. It's because
Yes,
no, it's not. It's because it helps different words fit into the line.
Oh.
So like, you know how Shakespeare is like da 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 da, like that's the kind of poetry line of whenever Shakespeare's using poetry.
Uh-huh.
So the beats in every line there's 10 beats in every line. So sometimes there are sentences that are shut up.
I'm just
that
laughing.
are 9
I'm not
beats.
trying to be mad. I'm not
Sometimes
trying to...
there are sentences that are 9 beats that he's trying to get to be 10 beats long so that the flow of the text feels stronger and that like it keeps flowing into the next line and the next line and the next line. And so sometimes he'll make it, instead of lived, it's livid. So that's the basic reason why.
It's like a song when you're trying to be like, and the night.
It's exactly like that. Yes. Yeah, that's it. It's not that he's being like, livid.
I mean, it is still that, but whatever.
No, it's not. It's the weird thing you just did.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
What I'm trying to say is Shakespeare's dumb.
I mean,
I'm not
No.
here to know. No, I'm just kidding. I'm so super kidding.
I just meant that like, yeah, no, Shakespeare's not trying to be lofty. He's not trying to be an asshole.
Okay, so then Brutus has like they need to like talk to the people because it's Rome and it's a, you know, quote unquote democracy or some version of a democracy / republic where the people have influence over the government as well as the vice versa. And their head of state is dead, so they need to like talk to the people, and it needs to like, this is a very delicate situation where it needs to go smoothly if they want to steer it in the direction they want.
This could be a PR nightmare.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. And so like, well, and then Antony, who is Caesar's right-hand man,
Yeah.
was like, I'll speak, you know, because I'm on your guys' side, right? And they're like, oh yeah, I'll be great. And then Brutus is the only one who's like, yeah, you could speak, and you know, but like, we're giving you permission to speak, and I want you to let everyone know that we're giving you permission to speak, and I want you to say that we're dope.
Yeah, and Cassius is like, this is a bad
Cassius is
idea.
like, kill this motherfucker right now. Cassius, have you ever seen The Town?
No.
The Town's not a good example. I mean, it is a good example, but it's not like a wide enough example. But like, Jeremy Renner is like the fucking like first lieutenant who's like down to kill fucking everybody, and Ben Affleck's like the kind of little more collected, you know, like leader. But it's also like Planet of the Apes, where you have there's a ton of examples of this, of stories where like there is like the leader who is like, I want to do this thing, and I want to make like the peaceful / the more like measured option, and their first lieutenant is just like,
Kill him.
No, kill him. Let's kill him. And I don't know why you ain't trying to kill him, but we should fucking kill him. And you barely have me on the leash. And that's not exactly what this is, but it just reminded me of it. Like,
It's like Garnet in the Steven Universe.
nah. No,
She
it
doesn't want to
feel like
kill,
that.
but she wants to attack.
I feel like I'm sorry. I feel like it's a bad example.
Oh, fine. I just really like Steven Universe, okay? This is your fault. You got me into it.
It's an amazing show. So anyway, yeah.
I just want to ping something really quick, and I think that it's interesting, it's important, it's not important, it's interesting. The scenes that we kind of totally skipped are the scenes with the wives. Both Brutus's wife and
did.
Caesar's wife.
I
I'm not
didn't
saying
mean
you
to.
did. No, you didn't do it, because I've been going through this with you, and they kind of just fell by the wayside, and I think that it's
I wrote it down.
It just no, I'm not saying you did anything wrong. I'm just saying they're such side plots. They're such like plot B, or plot C, frankly.
Yeah.
And this story kind of exists without them.
No, we talked about it. I talked about Brutus's wife with her black eye, and like that he.
Oh
that
yeah,
he
we
beat
just
her.
didn't talk about Caesar's
And
wife.
no, yes we did. We talked about, she was like, don't go. She was like, I skimmed past it, but she was like, I was saying, she was like, don't go.
Right.
Like, they're gonna kill you.
We touched on both of them, but I feel like we definitely like skimmed them as opposed to like focusing on the main plot. But
I don't think they
I'm not
were essential
saying.
to the
I
main plot.
know. I think they were super secondary to the main plot, and I think that I think, you know, it's for all the reasons we mentioned. One of them being you've got the 14-year-olds playing the wives. Like, you've got the kids who don't have very much experience playing these wives, and I think that it's a good example for why, and especially with this production too, why we need to cast women in the dudes' roles, because not only do women play a greater role in society now, and we're not just fucking stuck at home, but also, you know, if Shakespeare, I mean, you know, just based on what he did write, it feels to me like if Shakespeare had a real cast of people of all genders, he might have totally written a story that took place entirely in the home, or like wherever women were that were not.
I think he would have written different plays.
I do too.
But I mean, like, I would argue Lady Macbeth is like a dope character.
Oh my god, she's awesome. I feel like he had like the best 14-year-old for that. I really do. I think he had the best 14-year-old for like a couple years and was like, yeah, dude.
Maybe, or maybe he just like was on a roll and like couldn't stop and just be like, whoever plays this, somebody's gonna have to play it.
Yeah.
But I can't like not put these lines in. I don't know.
I'll just train him up. I'll train him up.
Yeah, maybe that's the case, or maybe they just like he was just like, I got an adult male, and it's gonna have to work.
Yeah.
Because it's just that good. I can't. I'm not gonna not put these lines for this character.
Right.
Like, who knows? Yeah, but I definitely believe like he would have allowed himself to write more complicated female characters.
Yeah, and I think
really what this play shows me is that like it is a big enough leap for like us to imagine people speaking the way that these people do. It's a big enough leap to imagine this different time. It's a tiny step to go ahead and just imagine this female actress is this male character, or this male actor is this female character. Like, it just seems like it's all in the same category of like suspending your disbelief to like put on the show.
Even just we're in a theater and they can't see us, and we're watching their lives that are real.
So little to me that all the actors were female.
Yeah.
It mattered zero.
Yep.
And I could focus on the play. So like I can. Yeah,
it's also nice to me to hear that, especially coming from you, because I know you're not just saying that. No. You know, like, I know you, and I know how analytical you are about stuff, and that gives me a lot of hope. That makes me feel like, yeah, we can make art that it doesn't matter.
I'm curious to watch 12th Night for a play that's about gender. Yeah. So like, and it was something, I don't remember the part of this play, but it was talking about like, I think there was a part talking about gender in this play. I don't remember, but it made me think about like just when the subject, or when the goal is just about the goal and it has nothing to do with gender, like it just gets in the way. Yeah. Like, just I want to focus on this thing, and I don't care who you are. You are you are only relevant as to as much of an obstacle or an asset you are to like get to this goal. Yeah. And what this play was about was that it had nothing to do with gender. So like it like gender only mattered to the extent that the characters made it matter. Yeah. And so like I guess I never really like forgot that it was an all female cast, but like it never felt. Nothing felt forced. It all felt super true. Yeah. And I was super on board. And so, yeah. I loved it. Anyway. Okay, so So we keep getting fucking stuck before we get to this part. But I feel like this was my favorite part of the whole play. Was Mark Antony giving the speech like at gunpoint for the murderers of Caesar. It was like the way you use repetition in a speech for effect. The term honorable men was used over and over, ironically.
Yeah.
Like, these motherfuckers killed Caesar, and they're honorable men.
Right.
And they did all this, and they did A, B, and C, and they're honorable men.
Yeah, like, I didn't see that Caesar was ambitious, but they saw it, and they're honorable men, so I have to believe them.
So good. It was pushing against the fourth wall without quite breaking it.
Yeah, and it was also like the definition of soft power, like not going at something with brute force and you know, kind of what Brutus is doing and what that whole crew is doing, but going at something with a more subtle hand and yet gaining the upper hand.
Say more.
Like, he didn't just get up there and go, fuck them, they killed my best friend, I'm so mad. He went about it a totally different way, and because of that was more effective.
But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like the influence of leading someone to a conclusion that you want them to have, as opposed to telling them they should have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, everything about that scene and the way it was played, it was just like, so somebody was just speaking with just like a overwhelming amount of sarcasm.
And we haven't even talked about the meta theatrical aspect of it, where, like, you know, at first part of it was Antony just kind of playing the crowd, and like they would react physically in these really specific ways. And then at the end of the speech, he started conducting.
Yes.
So he's conducting everyone. So he'd say a line, and then
I have it written
a flick
next,
of the hand, and like one person would start singing a note, like just or whatever it was, and then like would say the next line.
It's a very surreal
another
sequence.
Flick of the hand, and then the next person joins in, and it starts to become a chord, and it's all just harmonizing with each other. And it was building a sound,
because it was like so juicy, because at that point when after the honorable men portion of the speech, like you understood that the crowd knew exactly what Mark Antony was saying. The crowd one, the president just got killed, got murdered, and we have somebody saying that, like, oh, these are the murderers, like, so this is a coup, but they want us to believe that this coup will result in something good, and it's not like a hostile takeover.
Yeah,
it's something that we all want.
We all wanted it.
We love this, and they know what we want, and it's just like, you know, filled with sarcasm, and like, oh, do you want me to read the letter that our president wrote to us before he died? And then like it's like
and they're like, yes, and he's like, no, you don't want to hear it.
It's like no, I couldn't They'd
possibly. Be mad at me, so I can't. Oh, are you compelling me to?
It's exactly. It's like the extreme and literal. I have the crowd at my fingertips.
Yes,
like it's for Mark Antony to be conducting these people,
and the literal interpretation of playing them like a fiddle.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And then, and there's not a ton of set pieces or props in this play, but this is a big one. Was when like, and towards the end of the speech, after every time Mark Antony says something, there's like a sound cue, but also all of the actors, all the cast is like whispering. It's like, I said this.
Yeah.
And then also like the music is swelling and like all these other things. And then he's just like, well, should I read the letter? And they're like, no, you don't want me to. And like teasing. And then finally reads the letter and just like, Oprah, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car.
Right.
And there's like a bunch of people with shopping carts like on Black Friday, like leaving with TVs and like walking around the stage.
Yeah, it's literally like, so that whole thing is literally like if...
Stimulus check.
Like, imagine if the Chicago Lakeshore were privately owned and then suddenly, like, the mayor died, like Lori Lightfoot died, and she owned the whole lakeshore and went, the lakeshore is now free and open to everyone. Everyone would lose their minds.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. Like, what happens is exactly like that. And I loved that their stage interpretation of that was everyone gets a TV.
I love your assumption that everyone listening lives in Chicago.
I'm not assuming that. You can look up Lori Lightfoot.
Imagine something you really want, you can't have,
and then now you can.
It got promised to you by the president who just
but
died.
Like, but just because they're talking about the orchards and stuff, and like just the idea of something so big becoming public land is crazy.
And that was like the last will and testament of the late
Caesar, and you know, everyone's like, well, of course we didn't want him dead.
We have no king but Caesar. Sorry. We in our clip of that we put at the end of the episode, we're gonna put a clip from Jesus Christ.
We have to. We're doing it. It's happening.
Why? Sorry.
Oh God.
Jesus,
why do you take so long?
I cut that out?
No, of course not. Paul, this is why we're here.
Okay, so we don't have a fourth wall break. I mean, is it like a 16th wall break? I don't know.
At this point.
What the deal is, if the play within a play breaks the fourth wall, does it just break it? Anyway, we're
reminded of the situation in which this play is taking place.
Yes. The lights,
which is the prison,
jump back on, and they're like, oh, all right, stop, ladies, chill out real quick. We got something's going on, and I'm the fucking prison guard. And they're like, oh, we're fucking doing a play here. And they're just like, all right, we'll continue with something else. And they all like switch roles.
Yeah, so it's pretty much just this one person gets tapped out to go whatever. Like, is she in trouble? It doesn't even matter because it's, clearly a justice system flaw.
And it coincides with the play very nicely.
Perfectly. So tell us what happens.
So at that point, there is like an aftermath of the coup that is attempting to be peaceful, but is also still like playing out in real time.
And this is in Julius Caesar world.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so now we go back into the world. And
we have an actor with a book. So like the one person has been tapped out. We don't know why, but it's just something unfair probably.
Yeah.
And then somebody so the woman who plays Brutus grabs someone, puts her in, gives her a script. And is like, here, you're playing this role now.
And she's reading the lines of a character named Cinna.
Yeah. And
Cinna is like, just trying to oh, I don't know these lines. And it's still bringing you out of the play because they're reading the lines out of a book as opposed to like reciting them from memory. And then now the other characters around her are also like, oh, they happen to be characters that are about to kill the character reading the book. So they're like, hey, yo, who the fuck are you? But it is very much of the situation where like a riot is happening and people are trying like imagine the LA Watts riots and imagine a bunch of inner city like disenfranchised people, black people, like found a cop who was just like by themselves. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, we're gonna kill you, and it doesn't matter who you are. And that's the point.
Right.
The point is that it doesn't matter that you got switched out with another character. You are wearing this uniform and you are of this tier and you're going to die because we can kill you right now. Mm-hmm. And that was like super powerful and super like
it was like,
it was a great choice.
The fact that person got switched out and still was getting attacked was super clear. And then the fact that, so then what happens next is that they get shoved into like the side of the stage and we see like quote unquote real blood for the first time, because before what's been happening is like, even when Julius Caesar gets killed, it's like, you know, stab, 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 but there's no fake blood there. And now we've got fake blood on this person's face, which makes it clear to us this isn't just happening in the world of the play. This is happening in the world of the women's prison. That, like, you know, they, like, clearly because this person got subbed in, they didn't totally know the fight choreography and something got messed up and they got hit in the face.
Yes. And so, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So for us as the audience, it makes it clear that the stakes have just risen. It makes it clear that, like, you know, everything's kind of uncertain, even more so than we thought. It also, like, it really makes it deeply clear that it doesn't matter who this person was, they were going to get attacked.
Yeah. And it felt very much like a choice. I mean, clearly it was a choice by Phyllida Lloyd and not Shakespeare to, like, shine a light on what this meant, on, like, why this was important, and, like, the fact that, like, the snowball effect that we were talking about earlier, about once you get something started rolling, you don't know what direction it will go. Like, if you incite something that will, like, start this riot, there's going to be casualties of, like, innocent people, possibly, of, like, other and you can't aim it like a scalpel. It can only aim it like a sledgehammer,
Right.
and it will just barrel through where it's going to go, like the snowball effect. So, like, it was just making that point, and I think in a way that we would have context for.
Yeah.
And it was dark.
Yeah. Man, I was mad at those guards. I was like, you guys suck. It's like, stop interrupting the play.
Do you want to talk about that cognitive dissonance point?
I do.
Okay, so please paint it out. So we're gonna go ahead and stop this chronology right now, because, like, I was having a trouble with
a moment,
and, like,
how you
also, like,
interpret
the trajectory of certain characters, and I stopped and I pushed pause in the play to, like,
to talk about
to
it.
Chloe about it, but I wasn't exactly sure what I was trying to get.
Yeah, let me hit it.
Please help me.
So we get to this point in the play where Cassius and Brutus are having a conversation, and in the production that we watched, what it felt like was Cassius genuinely and truly, from the bottom of her heart, wanted to be good friends with Brutus, and that's what she really cared about. And in the lines, that's reflected. It's like everything she's saying is like, how can you not trust me? How can you not feel like I'm your friend? But if you look back on what's happened in the play before that, it becomes pretty clear that, like, Cassius is kind of using Brutus, and Cassius wants to kind of live vicariously. And to your credit, you said this, like, wants to live vicariously through Brutus.
In the beginning of the play, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Cassius was like, if I were you, I would do this, and I would do that, and I would do that. And Brutus was, like, resisting taking any action. And
Right.
Cassius was, like, pushing, like, super hard for Brutus to, like, do anything and, like, kill Caesar. It almost felt like Cassius was, like, convincing Brutus to kill Caesar. And Brutus felt like, it felt like Brutus was like, I got forced to kill Caesar. I didn't even want to do it.
Right.
Like, and
so it's like, if you want me to.
Kind of annoyed me.
But anyway, at a certain level, it's like Cassius did this because Cassius wanted to be Caesar, but, like, rather than Cassius just trying to take over himself, he was like, well, I'll have Brutus take over because Brutus is in a good position to do it. So it didn't really scan that in that scene he genuinely feels like, hey, you're my true friend, how can you not trust me? As opposed, like, and I believe that that's what Cassius thinks he wants, but I think at a deeper level, Cassius really feels like he's disappointed that Brutus isn't doing exactly what he wants. And that he's living with the fallout of, oh, this person isn't doing everything I want, just like Caesar didn't do everything I want. So it's just the same thing.
I think I'm still have trouble articulating this, and I believe that feels like it rings true with like the literal actions of the characters and the way it plays out. What I was reading in this play,
in this production?
In this production.
No, just being clear.
It's a very important point, and I'm glad you're being clear, because that's what this podcast is about.
I'm not trying to be like, in this production.
No,
I'm just trying to be sure what you're saying.
Thank you. In this production, I wasn't reading the things that I would read if that I think I should read if that's what we're talking about, which would be like selfishness, which would be frustration, which would be, like a certain narcissism of self importance of, you should be listening to me.
So wait, I'm gonna stop you, because I think that you're kind of on the right track, but I think you're kind of falling towards that thing that you said before of I felt like this person thought they were a protagonist and they're supposed to be an antagonist.
Yes, and I am drifting away from that.
I know that that's what you said, and now you're kind of being like, that's not exactly what I meant. But I think that the idea of what you're saying, it doesn't need to be that, like, that they're feeling so. I'm getting stuck on kind of the path that you were getting stuck on. So I think that the dissonance that we were feeling in that scene came from the fact that this actor is so phenomenal and so good. And so when she's playing at, oh, I'm trying to be a good friend, and I'm appalled that this person doesn't believe that I'm a good friend, we believe them. But it doesn't ring true with the rest of what's happened in the play or the rest of the way that the character's been played. So we're seeing this person play at something true, but it's disconnected from the rest of the character and kind of, I think, from the story.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what was causing the dissonance, because you're like, this is right. And the way that you described it that I really liked was like, it feels like they hit a bullseye, but it was on the wrong target.
Yes.
And so I think that's what's going on. And I think that if we're thinking about, and I think what we're trying to do with this podcast too is like think about what could we do to adjust this or make this better or make it clearer, or like in an ideal production, what would happen? And I think that the ideal would be, at least for this production, and I think maybe for any production, is that Cassius is saying that they're appalled that Brutus doesn't trust them. But I think Cassius is actually, even if Cassius wouldn't admit this to himself, Cassius is actually just disappointed that Brutus is not his puppet, or Brutus is not doing everything that Cassius wanted him to do.
It is complicated, because
that's
complicated. Like a deep subtext that you could either confirm or deny at any point. It's like somebody like kind of being coy and somebody calling them out on it, but then like somebody being like, I never said that.
Yeah.
So it's like you could make arguments for both, but it doesn't quite resonate with the rest of the character as I see it. And again, that's what I pinged at the beginning, is that like I'm new to evaluating characters and performances on this level, but I think I'm really like laser focused on, like, not laser focused, it's the opposite of laser focused, but like I'm good at like taking a bunch of data points and aggregating like a trajectory of what they are.
Yeah.
And what
I think too, like,
and
even
that's what this is doing. Like if I'm trying to like say that this character is if this person is the amalgamation of all the things they've done and all the things they've said.
Yeah.
It's very easy at that point to like point out like that is a deviation from that. That is a crazy, like, why would this person say that?
Right.
Like, and so at this point, that's what I feel like is happening.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't think I need to elaborate too much on anything you said. Like that's what I was trying to say about what the performance of that actress that was playing Cassius was like. It felt very earnest and like honest, and it just like made me like be on her side. But then like I like took that one step back and being like, wait a minute, this character is like trying to do all these other things, and now it's suddenly like, I don't know, it felt like, and I keep with my modern Western sensibilities calling it a protagonist. Like that's something that a protagonist would say. Like it's.
Can I pause you for a second?
Go ahead.
I really want to make an analogy, and I don't know if this is the perfect analogy, but to me, it's ringing true for what we're talking about right now. So, when I apprenticed the fight choreographers that I apprenticed, one of the things that they always said that I think is really true is that, you know, as humans, when we see something happen physically, we recognize whether it obeys the laws of physics or not. And we recognize that not consciously. We don't go, physics, they did it, or that was not physics. In our heads, we just feel like that looks real or that doesn't look real. We're not specifying like, that's physics.
I mean, I am, but whatever.
I mean, I know you are, but I'm talking about the general public, Paul Stafford. But like, we like, you know, if you see a fall, if you see someone do a fall, we can recognize like, oh, they were like really trying to stop themselves, or like, oh, they fell for like 15 extra seconds. Like that makes no sense. And our brains don't go 15 extra seconds. Yes. They just go, that didn't look right. And I think there's a similar thing happening here where it's like, oh, that didn't feel right. But unless you're looking at it from a, you know, Shakespearean actor perspective, it's hard to specify or articulate why.
If I may quote Mr. Plinkett, you may not have noticed it, but your brain did.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And I think it's really true. I think I
was worried that I was crazy, and so when I asked you when we were watching it, I was like, wait, am I noticing? And you're like, no, I get it too.
And that's the thing that's both really, like, for me as an actor, it's like something that I really like. I like figuring it out from the back end and troubleshooting it basically, and getting into that complexity and figuring out why we think about that way. But it's important as an audience member not to have to do all that shit, not to have to chew all that shit, but just to just because it'll either ring true for us or it won't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, ringing true is like my favorite way to put that, because like you don't need to explain it at that point. Like if it all fits into place, you won't notice these things.
Exactly.
And the only reason we're noticing it is because it stood out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so after this point, like after we have that speech, and after like that immediate like aftermath happens, we have like these like the fallout is the two, there's like a dividing factions of Rome. Yeah. And we have the people, we have Mark Antony, who's now in a beret on stage, and
like you do.
and partnered with this new character who comes, Octavius.
Hey, girl.
Who is replayed by the actress who played Brutus's wife. Mm-hmm. Still black-eyed for some reason.
I know. I was confused about that.
I didn't know. But they're now, in war garbs and, against Brutus and Cassius. Man, I'm so good with the names this episode. And
you really are. There's like, because that's the nice thing about this one. There's like 4 main people.
Yeah.
And friends.
And they're like, now the coup didn't go as swimmingly as possible, and there's like, the people are not clearly decided on which leader should be theirs. But it really, I feel like the people don't fucking matter almost. Like, it's almost just like, as long as like it's like if you took over the presidency it didn't matter what the most of the country thought. You just need to get the 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate, like, and then you'd be good.
Sure.
Like that's kind of what's happening here, and because those are the people who control the whole sway over all these other things. Like it's almost an illusion. Anyway, my cynicism aside, they're just kind of like glossing over the fact that there is a dividing of factions now, and now there needs to be an actual war for who is ruler of Rome.
I still feel like the more glossed over, the better. I feel like the more we're talking about this, the more I'm like, Mark Antony should finish his speech, and then we should go blackout, and then we should cut to the fucking war.
And so Chloe's alluding to the conversation we had earlier, which is the fact that there's a lot of scenes that happen now that kind of like halt the momentum of the play.
Yeah.
Like all of the tension before killing Caesar was about killing Caesar.
Yeah.
And once Caesar dies, that tension is over for the most part, but then it's like we still have the tension of like what to do about the people who killed him, and so like that tension is still like there's still some momentum for like Mark Antony giving a speech. Is like, oh, are they gonna do something? Are they gonna like get held responsible? And then like that finishes, and there's like a bunch of scenes before they actually have like the conflict that results in, you know, like the fucking
Octavius being in charge.
But also the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the
coup,
the avenging of Caesar's death between of all the conspirators.
Yeah.
Like they still either have to like win the war or like die or like be put in prison or like something.
One thing I liked about this show was I think that so often when I see Julius Caesar, it feels like Julius Caesar, once Julius Caesar dies, his influence disappears from the show. Like, and I think that everything that happens after his death is because of him. It's because of his death, and it's because of the fact that they killed him. And I think that kind of can get lost. But I love that his ghost kept popping up, not just in Brutus's dream, but like all over the place. He was everywhere, and like he was playing the drums. Like it was clear that vengeance for his death was what was driving this, more so than in any other production I've ever seen.
That's so funny because Julius Caesar almost felt irrelevant to me.
I think that's kind of true too, though. You know, I think he
was a symbol more than a character.
Yes, he's more of a symbol than a character. I just mean in the way that he became a symbol.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Yeah, and a ghost, and a, you know.
Yeah, because he does haunt the other characters.
Yeah.
But and that's what I thought was more of beautiful in the depiction of the character of Brutus. I mean, like, Brutus was projecting all these things onto Caesar that didn't exist necessarily. Like saying like it's a powerful thing for someone to be like exclaiming this thing that exists if it was already clearly evident that it didn't exist.
Yeah.
So now we can just turn it on its head, and now that exclamation of this existence is more as opposed to this actual thing existing is evidence of the delusion of the character.
Yeah.
Which is just another truth about the character, like a delusion about a character, like a character exclaiming something that isn't true is truth about the character exclaiming something. So it's like it's just an upside down version of saying the opposite thing.
Damn, my head kind of hurts, but I think you're totally right.
Yeah. So, which is it's if nothing else entertaining.
Yes.
And if you know on a deeper level, you can say some certain things about human nature and how I feel like the way Brutus was played in this play was trying to like vie for the audience's sympathy and empathy, but feel like was getting none of it because he was so delusional and so wrong on every aspect.
You feel like he was getting none of it?
I wasn't giving him any.
The whole time?
Yeah, no. At the beginning, maybe before like killing of Caesar, but then like it was just so ridiculous. It was so
what was so ridiculous?
like
The plot or him? Or like do you feel like it was not believable or do you feel like you just didn't like him?
It was so evident that somebody was lying to themselves.
Yeah.
It was just so clear.
Which made you not like him.
Which made me not feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Which made me not be on his side.
I think that's the point
all.
of the play. I feel like, him deluding himself and being like, well, if I feel bad about my actions don't matter. Or like my actions aren't bad. Like if I'm doing it for the right reasons-ish, then if I can excuse myself.
I don't think he was a stereotypical villain, but I was never I never empathized. I never
before he killed Caesar?
No, because maybe because I knew too much about where it was going and I knew that Brutus killed Caesar. I don't know what it was. But or maybe because it was just so extreme the way they made Brutus seem so fucking apologetic. So the no resolve aspect that I was talking about, why the fuck would this be the speech that you give? It just felt...
okay, listen, I get what you're saying about not getting behind it or being disgusted by it, but I don't believe you necessarily about it being ridiculous.
It felt ridiculous to me.
But what do you mean ridiculous?
That
especially for this production.
Somebody this conflicted, I don't think couldn't go through it. I have been conflicted about some things. When I was fucking 13, I was conflicted about stealing candy from the fucking mini mart. I've been conflicted about stuff like this, and it's a...
Well, did you?
Yeah, I fucking did it.
Yeah, I mean, I stole stuff when I was 12 too.
I wanted some candy, and I stole it.
Well, that's what Brutus did.
I feel like I walked into a corner right there, but
got him.
But it doesn't feel like the same thing. I've also been conflicted about bigger stakes things that required me to do more, and I fucking didn't do it. I ran away.
Well, I feel like you're just criticizing him as a person now, which makes sense because part of the point is that we're supposed to criticize him as a person.
It just doesn't seem believable.
I feel like...
I don't know. It just doesn't seem believable with someone with that little seeming resolve could go through with stabbing their seemingly brother in the fucking chest. He just didn't have any resolve. And he was trying to convince me as the audience member to take pity on him for murdering.
Okay, no, those are two
Caesar.
different. Those are two totally different things. Are you not convinced about taking pity on him, or are you not convinced that he would have done it? Because those are two totally different things.
You are right. Both.
Because I agree with you about not taking pity on him.
You're right. And that's the aftermath of the killing, and the before the killing.
I think the play doesn't want us to take pity on him. I think that's part of the point.
Yeah, no. You're right.
But
it's two different things.
But let's break down the I don't believe that he would do it thing, because that...
It just seemed it just seems like it would take more resolve than that to go through with something not even as big as killing somebody.
Well, what about something that you do want to do, but that you think you shouldn't?
Yeah, and it might be the way I perceived the performance.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I actually think this is fascinating. This is kind of a new conversation that we haven't quite had.
Yeah.
But the way I was perceiving the performance was just I'm just so innocent. I don't even want to do it. And it stems from the first conversation with Cassius and Brutus, about how Cassius was kind of pushing Brutus to do this, and it was really more of Cassius's seed that pushed Brutus to that watered the flower of Brutus to want to do this, because Brutus was the second in command, or the only other person that could, the logical next choice from Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
But it felt like Brutus saw himself as like a victim, and like I have to. I don't know what else to do. Like I just.
I mean, that just feels like you don't like him, which is fine.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not. But there's a difference between feeling like you're pushed into something and like you don't want to jump off the diving board, and felt like, and as opposed to like, well, I got pushed into this and I don't want to, but I'm jumping off this fucking diving board.
No, I think he did want to, and he had all this momentum behind him, and he knew he shouldn't.
But I don't feel like I read that in the performance.
Interesting.
The performance felt very like, I don't want to kiss him. I don't want to kill him. And like somebody grabbed his arm and like pushed it into him. Like that's what I am like taking away emotionally. And like I couldn't quote you anything from it. But like it felt like again, like he was the last one to fucking stab him, which is I'm sure maybe in the play direction.
It is.
He's the last one to stab him, but isn't like, and so it just felt like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe now I'm getting like a little like now I'm like thinking about other concepts, and I'm kind of deluding myself and just like kind of like spinning my wheels.
Welcome to my world.
But yeah, it doesn't. What was our original point? My original point was that the fact that I didn't think.
You didn't believe that Brutus would do that.
And so maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe like some of the wheels were spinning, and whether he hatched the plan or not, the plan was already like gonna happen, and all these people planned it around him, and maybe he was kind of a victim. Like,
I mean, I definitely read it as these people were all like, we're all gonna kill Caesar, and we're like, Brutus, you in?
Exactly. And so I was thinking of as the opposite. Like I was thinking of is that like Brutus was convincing all these people to kill Caesar, like, and Cassius was convincing Brutus to convince all these other people.
No.
And so,
at least I don't think so.
Well, clearly we are coming to a new thing that I didn't quite understand, and what I understood was that, and so that's why none of it kind of rang true to me. Like, how is this motherfucker the marshal? That is like, how is this motherfucker marshaling all these other people's like will to go against their government to create a coup?
I mean, to me, it felt like, I mean, I'm even specifically thinking about stuff within this production where like, you know, they all show up to Brutus's house with those face masks on, and then they're pulling them off. Like it felt to me like we're already all in the secret cult. Are you going to join or not? Okay, you said you're going to join. Now we'll reveal to you who we are.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That went way past me.
It's so funny.
So like, okay, so now I'm misinterpreting this then, because well, in some level I feel like I had no choice but to.
Yeah, I mean everybody's perspective is their own.
As you're saying it to me, it makes sense, and I could have picked up on it from what the play was showing me. Mm-hmm. So I'm not blaming the production for me missing it. But since my only vehicle or my only avenue into understanding what was going on was through Brutus's soliloquies, yeah, I felt like Brutus was the driver of what was happening in the plot. But from what I'm understanding now, Brutus was in the back seat, and he was just interpreting the plot for us. And so that's just like honestly like a different style of storytelling that is just not as prevalent now as maybe as it was, or just maybe it's unique to Shakespeare.
I don't know. I bet it's not unique to Shakespeare, but I think it's probably something unique.
I'm only saying unique to Shakespeare because I don't have the context of other plays that happened at the time.
No, I got you. And I'm not just saying like, you know, plays at the time. I'm saying like, it's not common. It's not how we commonly think of narrators. Yeah. Like we commonly think of our quote unquote protagonists as having all of the
And that's like another thing that we established at the beginning was that there's no protagonist in this play. It's just people. We have a focus, but we don't have a protagonist. Yeah, it's comical, just historical, pastoral. There's no genre. It just is, and it is an attempt. We believe, and it just all the evidence supports that it is an attempt to reflect the truth of history and how complicated it is, and just like intention and obstacle. Yeah. Intention and obstacle, this most simplified elements of guiding your protagonist through a narrative. Yeah. fucking get it. I got it. I'm fucking there. So I'm actually glad we found that, because it's flooding into me as we're saying it.
What is?
How much of a backseat Brutus could have been in.
Mm-hmm.
Which I wasn't getting before.
Interesting.
Which is now making other things click. Because before, like, that's what I'm saying. That's why I had a problem. Because Brutus was like, I don't fucking know, guys. I just want to do my job.
Yeah.
And fucking just be a cool guy. And, you know, Caesar's fucking, you know, we don't want him to be a tyrant. But, like, I mean, whatever, man. It's cool. And, like, and fucking Cash is like, no, you were fucking awesome. Kill this motherfucker. Like, look at you, man. Your dick so big, girl. Ooh, girl, your dick so big. And like.
Wait. I just have to ping that you just said, ooh, girl, your dick's so big.
That's exactly what it was.
But it's just funny.
I stand by it.
It makes sense. I'm not disputing you. I'm
So,
just pinging it. I think it's great.
It just seems so, like, I'm just like, shut the fuck up. Like, why are you, like, still trying to, like again, like, pleading to the audience with these soliloquies of, like, oh, man, like, I don't want to kill this motherfucker. Oh, man. Like, I'm like, you're doing it. And you're like, and it's just like, it just seemed to be like, it was like somebody leaning back against a group of high school bullies pushing him into this thing that he doesn't want to do. But he clearly wanted to do it. So like, it just, the dissonance was not clicking with me. But now that I understand more of that, like, we are in the cult, are you in?
Mm-hmm.
Aspect of it, that makes way more sense.
Cool.
I'm sorry it took so long for me to get there.
No, don't be sorry at all. I think this is exactly why we are making this podcast.
Okay.
Because of these kind of conversations.
I don't think I even understood that from like the other. Yeah, I definitely didn't understand from like the other two productions I've seen of this.
Yeah, I feel like this one was the clearest in a lot of ways. I think that. Especially, I mean, I don't know that I would have noticed this unless we just had this conversation, but I think it could have been clearer.
Yeah, like just the fact that, I mean, in some senses, it almost felt like that's what I was getting at when I was talking about protagonist. It felt like the emotional state, and because of the fact that we are privy to Brutus's internal thoughts, because Brutus is like gives us soliloquies and stuff.
Yeah.
Everything Brutus says, we feel like it's truth, like, or at least honesty.
Uh-huh.
Brutus felt innocent. He felt innocent. And so that didn't vibe with the fact that he was the leader and the driver of the plot point to kill Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
But if he got swept up in a conspiracy that already existed to kill Caesar,
yeah,
it would vibe a lot. That puzzle piece would fit a lot more clearly.
I think textually that's what's happening, and I think that's what they were trying to communicate in this play.
In retrospect,
like
after talking to you,
yeah,
that makes more sense with what the play was showing me. I just missed it.
Got it.
I think I missed it. I think what the mask thing was totally trying to tell me that. The way Brutus was playing it was trying to tell me that. And just like all around, I could have gotten that. I think I just fucking missed it, dude.
I think that's in the setup of him getting introduced to the cult of evil.
I think it's just like, it's part of it's like a muscle. It's maybe practicing trying to like understand a format in a genre that I don't have any example for.
Yeah.
Because like, again, we talk about that a lot. Like me, like I'm always like just like, oh, it's this. Oh,
right.
It's this.
It's a category.
Oh, it's that.
Yeah.
And if I don't have a context to like drive from, it's just new to me, and I have to maybe watch it a few times.
Yeah. I think that's true for anyone of anything.
And so, but that's the thing we're trying to like figure out how to get around, because we think you should be able to get it on the first time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was entertained fully the first time around.
Yeah.
And whether it has rewatch value and I should watch it again to get everything I should, cool. But like first time around, it checked the box as far as entertainment goes. So we'll call it a win.
Definitely a win.
Anyway, do you want to talk about the movement piece?
Yes.
I mean, it was pretty fucking sweet.
You're talking about the one with the guitar with the beautiful singing from Lucius.
Yes.
And
He's Lucius. Well, it's always a young Lucius.
young innocent Lucius.
Yeah,
Which is
and
such the opposite of Lucius Malfoy.
and then fucking Brutus is
First dancing with his dead wife.
no. Yes, first is just like sulking.
Mm-hmm.
And like this beautiful fucking song out of nowhere. I'm like, that's why you were cast.
Yeah, that was funny.
This fantastic
Special skills.
song, which almost like just didn't really it was almost formless. It wasn't quite 4/4. It wasn't quite on a beat. It's just kind of beautiful and flowy, and like and Brutus was just, you know, regretting, and just like, you know, the camera work reflected the fact that it was supposed to be almost like montagey and just like
Dreamy.
yeah, like faded from one shot to the next, and then was dancing with his dead wife, who we find out previously had committed suicide, which is
By
now
swallowing fire.
whatever that means. Was
It just sounds bad.
was she
It
a
sounds
circus
terrible.
performer and just something went wrong? Like, I don't
Get
know.
out.
Was she at the Santa Monica Pier?
Get out of
and
here.
was trying to get tips?
I can't
and
with
just
you.
went awry.
Horribly wrong.
It just I don't know.
Oh, God.
Swallowed it down the wrong pipe.
Just went down the
And
wrong
we
way.
also remember that she was pregnant and her baby died.
Yeah.
Her baby swallowed
Really,
the fire.
really tragic. Her baby swallowed the fire.
Awful. And so now, you know, is just having all these memories while this beautiful sad song is playing,
Mm-hmm.
and starts, you know, gets up from this bed and starts dancing with his dead wife.
By the way, real quick, it's not textually written that she's pregnant. I thought it was a great choice because they write in the text that she is like in a, like, you know, in your weakened state or whatever, which could just be because she's a woman, but like I like that they made the choice of her being pregnant. I also imagined when they said that this time around, I was like, what if she had like an IV that she was like dragging around? You know, just we were learning it, leaning in a kind of funny direction. But, you know, I like that they made a choice about that, and it wasn't just like, oh yeah, I'm weak. It's bad.
There's a few scenes in this play where I was like, yeah, again, just like
Hoping that someone would have an IV.
No, but I'm just new to this, and I'm new to evaluating all the lines, and I'm like, that could have been hilarious. Like, that could have been funny. Like, was this place like literally enough scenes happened where I'm like, could this have been like a half comedy?
Yeah.
Like the way certain things played out, and yeah, some of the scenes were with her in it.
That's always the interesting thing too about tone is that, you know, tone can be played with. Sometimes there's a lot of ways you can play a scene. Sometimes it's very clear, or sometimes it's not clear, but there is a best way to do it, and sometimes there's not.
Yeah, or in even some of the dramatic scenes, it just felt like you could have if you would have swung for the fences the other way and made it funny, it would have worked.
That's true of a couple Shakespeare plays. There are some tragedies that Shakespeare's written that I'm like, damn, I want to make this a comedy. It'd be so fun. We could do a whole episode just about how I would make tragedies into comedies.
So funny.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And I felt like I saw a lot of it in this one. But still happy the way they did it. Anyway, so the song's playing and Caesar is sulking, and not Caesar, I'm sorry. Brutus is sulking, and then like suddenly in the surreal nature of this moment, he's dancing with his deceased wife. And then suddenly, Chloe.
So then suddenly he's dancing with Julius Caesar.
Oh, so good.
It was awesome.
He's and like they're just doing, you know.
Speaking of things that it doesn't quite matter whether it's romantic or not.
Yeah, it's just the guilt is just kind of like, you know, revolving around him as he's just like, you know, spinning with him.
It's palpable. It's like it's heartbreaking.
It means so many things. Like what a dance is. Like what a dance this fucking political game is.
Yeah.
Oh, everything about it was just great, and it was just like. At the same time as it was deep and you can like go so many ways with it, it was just, you could just consume it in this like beautiful song and this little number that they just like played out.
And their dancing was very good. They must have practiced a lot, or they must have had previous experience, or both.
It's pretty simple, and it wasn't too much to do.
I know, but it was tight. It was tight. They really
Yeah.
must have practiced.
I agree. I loved it.
Yeah, me too. I loved it a lot. I thought it was a great way to convey that scene. Because the only conceit of that scene is that, like, you know, Julius Caesar's ghost visits Brutus is the baseline of that scene. So, like, to make it a dance, to involve his dead wife, like, all of that was great.
Yeah. And
to incorporate it with the Lucius song, because what he does is he's like, play a song, and then he's like, okay, now he's asleep. Oh, now I'm feeling stuff about Julius Caesar. But to make that all one thing, ideal.
Yeah. And that's what we talked about that a lot, about, like, you know, wrapping up a lot of this context and exposition in, like, movement pieces is, like, sometimes a more powerful and simplified way to go.
Yeah.
And we even see that again because, and I think I skipped past this. I think I forgot to write notes for a while because, like, I'm like, it didn't matter, like, until, like, something, like, changed. It didn't, like, hit me to write something else. And that's what we're talking about from, like, after the moment.
That's good, because that means a lot of it felt like a nice flow.
Yeah. Like, after the moment that Mark Antony says, like, oh, these motherfuckers is dope, wink wink, no they're not.
Oh, no,
like,
you're talking about the
Caesar.
middle section that we don't like.
Between that and, you know, the actual, like, you know, war that happens, or, you know, like whatever.
Man,
uprising.
I'm trying really hard to care about that, or to keep open about it, but somebody's gonna have to convince me to care about that stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Like so this movement piece, like, at least just, like, summed up the emotional state of Brutus.
Right.
Which is all we really needed from the middle part of that.
Yeah.
And then we move on to another movement piece, which is the uprising / battle sequence.
Okay, honestly, like, you talked about your favorite part of the play, I think that was my favorite part. Like, as my little fight nerd brain, and as someone who, like, I really like physical kind of meta stuff, and it just felt very right. Like, it's like when you find a really good analogy for something. It felt like that feeling. It was like, this isn't a battle, but I get the analogy to a battle that this is, and it's exactly what it is.
It worked for fucking, like, 12 by 12 black box stage they had. Like, and that's all you needed to portray this. You you don't need the battle scene. You just need to portray that, like, there was two military opposing forces, and Brutus was hopelessly outmatched, and Brutus felt guilty about and was fearing the repercussions of the murder he committed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's finally admitting that to himself.
Yeah.
Because he was trying so hard to convince the audience and the rest of the people that...
And himself.
And himself that what he was doing was justified. And so that was apparent to the audience, but, like, all these contexts in, like, the way it interacted with, it's like the way accompaniment interacts with a melody. Like, you can have a melody that is unmoved and change the accompaniment, and suddenly the melody is minor, and suddenly it has this whole new context. So, like, I loved that. Like, and that's just, man, it's like, oh, man, that analogy is just, like, hitting me for the first time. Jesus Christ. About, like, how one character can have one, like, through line and one consistent action, but
things changing around them.
Yeah, we'll give that a new frame and a new lens.
Yeah.
So, he's admitting that for the first time, and so anyway, to describe the scene that's happening is they just have, like, 9 people, like, in a box around Brutus, and, like, the music is playing, and, like, you know, all these other characters that were in the play are playing bass and playing drums.
It's like DDR.
Yeah, and they're just playing fucking like really loud rock music, and then, like, everybody's screaming, but they're just, like, marching in place.
Yeah,
and
that's the part that I mean is, like, DDR.
Oh, sorry. And then suddenly they just start, like, dropping like flies, and they just start, like, falling down. And they also, because they're in a women's prison, and they like they were putting on the play, they have Nerf guns with orange tips on the guns, and I love it. It's adorable, and it's, like, wonderful, and it doesn't take you out of it though.
No.
Like it's still good, and then, like, and Brutus is like, yelling as if he's like yelling orders and commands to the troops, but also like just yelling as in like
He looks terrified.
like terrified, and is like putting the gun in his mouth and like trying to like will himself to commit suicide, but like can't quite do it. It's like a really visceral moment.
It really is.
Or like few moments, really.
And with a Nerf gun, which is crazy.
And it's still working.
It is. And it's like, it proves how much your imagination can do and how much it's, it's not about that surface level. It's about what's underneath.
For sure.
Like, what's the meaning of that?
Turns out, doesn't have the courage to commit, or I guess courage to commit suicide. That's a big can of worms. I'm not jumping into that. In this context, he does not commit suicide, and he convinces one of his people. He's like, "Hey, yo, kill me right fast." And like, I'm gonna give you this Nerf gun, and and they refer to the gun as a sword, and like, I'm gonna run at you while you impale me with this Nerf gun. And they kind of just act that out real quick just to like get it over with. Like, that's in the old days, they'd fucking had a sword, and he's like, I'll run at this sword, and like, basically, I can't kill myself, you kill me. And then they have basically the ending where Octavius kind of just kind of like cuts in line in front of Mark Antony, and like
literally like sidles right in. So Mark Antony is having his whole like, oh, we've won and this is the best thing.
And they cut to the shot of like it's literally a camera angle of them doing it.
Like it's like a newscasting camera.
But they planned it to where they look into the camera, and then they just in post they edit it to where it looks like a CCTV image of like them talking to the people, because they have their berets on. Like they're revolutionaries.
Yeah, it was really funny because I'm curious too to look up the text and be like, is this all Mark Antony's text that like Octavius stole? Is this all Octavius text that they just kind of hit together? Is it like two different lines that they just mushed together? But so Mark Antony is talking, and then halfway through a word, Octavius like takes over the word.
Take that.
Yeah, and like Seidel's literally in front of him, and so then Mark Antony just like is like, all right, I guess I'm done, and like leaves screen.
Yeah, it's kind of like honestly like how fragile like the balance of power is, and like in those moments.
Yep.
Like somebody could just like it felt good. I like that choice.
I agree. I thought it made it clear that like there is not really a great answer to these kind of situations.
Yeah.
It's never going to be clean.
Yeah. And then at the very end, before they can actually finish, they like remind you that they're in a prison again. And they cut the lights back on, and they say like, okay, you guys your time's done to like, to actually, your whatever therapy this is, and like, and
that's it.
This is providing for you, whatever rehabilitation this is providing for you. You're fucking done. Lights are on. Go to your fucking beds. And then like, and the lady who is playing Brutus is just like, we're not done, and she's like, you never let us finish. You never let us just like finish. We're not fucking done. And she just like, it kind of like has like a little bit of a breakdown and just kind of like sulks off and leaves crying, just saying like, you never let us like this was so fucking important to us.
We built this up so much,
and that was like, it was super
so
real, dude. It was super dark, and like, and then it faded out, and that's just how it ended. And like, and it went to this text which said,
so the text said, this production was inspired by a shared creative process between prisoners, actors, and the production team in association with the theater company Clean Break and the York at John University Prison Partnership Project. We thank all the women who shared their stories and experience with us.
Man, I don't know if like that actually happened, but I would totally believe it.
Yeah.
And it just felt,
literally, Paul, from my friends' experiences, like sometimes the prison will go into lockdown and they can't continue their rehearsal or whatever they're doing, and there's nothing they can do about it. It
sucks, dude, because like I can only believe, I mean, I don't fucking know, I'm not like value judging the process, but I mean, just like I can only believe that, like, for someone who is trying to, find some semblance of like meaning or like
Yeah.
what where their existence is now. I don't know what the crime they committed or whatever, but like, yeah, just to like this is probably like largely the only thing they fucking have.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to like get through it, and who knows what consequences they may have to like have impart some empathy on all the people who are part of this process, and just like rip it away right before it's done. Ugh.
It hurts.
It must be so hard. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I've had a lot of friends who've done projects where they've worked with people in prisons, and they always, whenever I talk to them about it, they're always like, there's just a kind of cloud that comes over, because you can see how much they've seen that people have gone through, and what they've had to deal with. Like you can even just from watching this person, you can see what they have witnessed other people having to deal with, and it's a lot, and yeah, I think our and this isn't even our justice system, but our justice system in the United States is very much flawed. And one of the things you asked too, as we were closing this out, was like, just generally, what is justice? And I wrote down some of the things you asked, like revenge, punishment, peace, rehabilitation. Like what is justice? And I think that's part of what this play asks. And I think that's one of the reasons that the prison setting worked for this.
That's a good point. I didn't think about it for that aspect. Like I that's one of the things I wanted to like talk about initially, but then I was kind of struggling to find like a clear, like one sentence answer for how it tied to Julius Caesar. But that's definitely one of the things, yeah. Man. I think I like this play. This production was definitely, if nothing else, entertaining, but like also super thought-provoking.
I agree.
And just like good.
Yeah.
Like,
well done.
Like I know this is like part of our gender bender duo series, but it has zero to do with that. And I'm happy.
I'm so interested too, because I think 12th Night is going to be hyper gendered.
Maybe.
Which I think will be a really interesting contrast. So I'm excited to talk about it in context of this.
At this point, my mind is wide open.
Yeah, me too. No, it's not. I'm terrified. I'm curious. I'm super curious, but I'm scared. I
can't wait to watch you grapple with this.
Oh, God, I'm gonna be changing positions. I'm gonna be like on the couch, on the floor, everywhere.
I love it so much.
Yeah, but I think yeah, I'm glad we're doing it. Even though I'm nervous, I'm glad we're doing this.
I won't, man. For like, if it has anything to do, like, I'm scared to make predictions, but like the fact that a lot of people that, like, again, we disagree with a lot of the general consensus of like what are the definitive like Shakespeare plays, like just like judging by
like what films are the best
judging
ones,
by just judging by like the general reviews, like consumer reviews of some plays. But the fact that a lot of people that you trust and like that you have to share some sensibilities about like what's good or not tell you that this one's good, and also the other one is good, the 12th Night with Mark Rylance is good.
It's gonna be good.
It might be like really good, but I mean, I don't believe. My point is that part of the reason why the ones that are good, they don't focus on the trivial, and they focus on the fundamental, and universal and human aspect of it. And the fact that this ignored any kind of gender bias and just went for why the play was good. I think those things will ring true. So if I had to make a prediction, I would predict that the other one does the same thing, and it just does a good play, and it just happens to be all men. And I think that's still going to be something you have to grapple with. It's going to be interesting, if nothing else.
I like my heart just went. "Ah." I felt it. I was like screaming. Because even just you saying that, I'm like, so yeah, it'll be fine. I promise to be vulnerable and open and deal with it as honestly as I can.
And if not, I'm gonna give you a bunch of shit. It's all good.
I just said I'm gonna do it. God.
Yeah, whatever.
This was a really good production. I'm really happy we watched it.
Yeah, me too. I had a great time.
Yeah. And I like talking about it. It was great. Really thought provoking.
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
Really
it's
good
cool.
conversation. So, whatever. It's casual. And so anyway, with that, I'm Chloe Baldwin.
I'm Paul Stafford.
And I hope the gap just got a little bit smaller.
Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar.
Hey, this is Chloe. Thanks for listening to Shakeshero. So if you want to watch that production of Julius Caesar by the Donmar Warehouse, directed by Phyllida Lloyd, you can go to marquee.tv and you can get a free trial for your first month and just search Donmar Warehouse or Julius Caesar and it'll come right up. It's got a really dramatic looking picture of Harriet Walter. And then our next episode will be about Twelfth Night, directed by Tim Carroll at Shakespeare's Globe. So if you want to check that out beforehand, feel free to do that, and we'll be talking to you then. Have a good one. Thanks for listening to Shakeshero. You can check out our website and email us your suggestions at shakeshero.com, or you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at the handle Shakeshero. We're on Spotify and Apple Music, so please review, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next episode.